for a company that buys life insurance policies. And there's this older couple in the commercial, and one of them says, to the camera, or says to the other, we learned that we could sell our policy when a friend did so to pay their medical bills. And I'm going, wait a minute. We're the richest country in the world, the richest billionaires in the world. We have more money than anybody. I mean, we got more money than God. It's just, the United States is a fabulously rich nation. And senior citizens are having to sell their life insurance policies, depriving their children of any kind of inheritance or benefit, help at all, just to stay alive, just to pay their medical bills. And I thought this isn't right. You don't have people having to sell their life insurance policies in Taiwan or in South Korea or in Japan or in Costa Rica or any of the European Union countries, because the total number of people who went bankrupt because somebody got sick in those countries is zero. It's 500,000 people every year in the United States. So I'm looking at this ad going, wow, this is really an ad about how sick and dysfunctional America's, our healthcare system is. Why is that? In fact, I posted this over at HartmannReport.com, and one of the people who reads our newsletter posted a reply saying that he's recovering from COVID and has been binge-watching TV, and he's been binge-watching Breaking Bad. It's been a long time since Breaking Bad was a hot thing, But the premise is that this guy had cancer. This high school science teacher, he had cancer, and he needed a lot of money to pay for his treatment, because this is America, right? And we don't have a national health care system. And so he started cooking meth to pay for his cancer treatment. It's just, how do we miss this stuff, right? Then another ad comes out for a company that sells reverse mortgages. Now, Tom Selleck, I'm sure, is a very nice guy, but are there really that many seniors who are now destitute and thus must wipe out the largest store of their wealth and their children's inheritance just to retire? Then came an ad for the Shriners Hospital for Children. And, they're doing wonderful work, right? Taking care of kids who are born with birth defects and deformities. But why are we crowdsourcing health care for children in crisis? Why isn't that just routinely provided for with our tax dollars? And then there was this ad for Danny Thomas's hospital, the one that he started. And now this one is dealing with kids with cancer, and they're doing a lot of great cancer research, and God bless them. But again, why aren't we all funding stuff like this? Why do we need this in the richest country in the world? I mean, why don't we just have billionaires pay their income taxes? Oh, that's right. Since the Reagan Revolution, billionaires no longer pay income taxes for all practical purposes. And then that ad was followed by another one for colostrum. It's a milk product that is supposed to boost your immune system. And the ad's pitch lady said something like, there are over 90,000 chemicals in our environment that haven't been tested for toxicity. And damn, I thought she's right. Most of the developed world uses the precautionary principle. You've got to prove something's safe before you put it in our food. Or it on, dump it in the air, put it in the water, put it in their food. Line the packages that we get our take-home FAS chemicals. No big deal. We'll just, we'll continue poisoning people until finally we get sued. That's how it works in America. It's the libertarian strategy. I mean, watch Dark Waters, the movie with Mark Ruffalo, if you want to see how this works. And then in the commercial break, Jeff Bridges comes on. He's a great guy. He's a great actor. And he's pitching a charity called No Kid Hungry, which turns out is a very, it's a high-quality charity with a really good rating. But again, why do we have kids who are hungry in America? 1 in 5 American children is either suffering from hunger or malnutrition right now in the richest country in the world. It costs us an estimate, because of the damage that's being done to the brains and bodies of these kids. It costs us $167 billion a year, And the total cost to end all childhood poverty in the United States is or hunger in the United States is $25 billion. The amount of money that Musk, Bezos, Gates, and Zuckerberg added to their money bins just since 2020 is over $300 billion. It's with $25 billion. But, you know, we could save $167 billion with a $25 billion investment, but we don't because it would require billionaires to pay their taxes. And how did we get there? How did we get to this point? Well, it's because 5 corrupt Republicans on the U.S. Supreme Court legalized bribery. They legalized corporate bribery in 1978 with the Bondi decision. They legalized basically all political bribery in 2010 with Citizens United. And of course, in 76, there was Buckley versus Vallejo. And the result of that is that, well, here, this is Judd Legum's newsletter today, popular.info. The average American family last year, 2020, paid an effective tax rate of 13.6%. That's average, right? Some people paying a whole lot, and some people paying nothing at all. So the average was 13.6%. General Electric reported $7 billion in profits last year. They got a refund of $423 million. They didn't pay taxes on their profits. They got a refund. T-Mobile reported $10 billion in profits last year. They paid $42 million in federal income taxes, 0.4%. Tesla, $3.2 billion in profits. They paid $48 million in federal income taxes, 1.5%. In 2020, quote, 55 of the largest corporations in America paid no federal corporate income taxes, despite enjoying substantial pre-tax profits in the United States. So what does this have to do with the Supreme Court? Well, the Supreme Court said that if you're rich or if you're a corporation, you can buy your very own politician. And those politicians then will introduce legislation to make sure that you never have to pay taxes. I mean, this is where we're at now. We've got, you know, the rich getting richer. We are now the most unequal society in the developed world. In addition to bringing you the Thom Hartmann program here on Free Speech TV and Video Media Online, we also have a whole set of ways you can interact with us and tools you can use to spread the word about the importance of democracy and the threats to it in our republic. First, there's your daily homework. Sue Nethercutt puts together a daily email newsletter that has a link to every story I discuss on the air, so you can find my sources and you can share them with your friends. It's free and you can sign up at thomhartmann.com. Second, I publish my daily take every day over at the hartmannreport.com website. That's also free if you want the daily 5 days a week rant in your inbox. No ads either. Third, we have the podcasts. There's the free 1-hour version of our daily show that's advertising supported. You can find that wherever you get your podcasts normally. And then there's also the podcast of the entire 3-hour show with no advertisements, and that's available by subscription over at thomhartmann.com. So check them all out at thomhartmann.com and hartmannreport.com. Our book today in the Thom Hartmann Book Club is by P. Moskowitz. It's The Case Against Free Speech, the First Amendment, Fascism, and the Future of Dissent. This is from the introduction. This book is not anti-free speech. It is anti the concept of free speech. It's an important distinction. Everyone should have the right to say what they want. I will not argue otherwise. I am not an authoritarian. In this book, I will not argue that the United States should adopt laws banning racist speech, like the ones that have proliferated throughout Europe, for example. I think those laws are often counterproductive
and end up being used against leftists instead of against racists. I won't argue that Nazi speech should be outlawed as it is in Germany. I won't argue that the First Amendment should be reformed nor more firmly upheld. This book is not about whether the First Amendment is good or bad. This book is about why the First Amendment is nearly irrelevant, except in its power as a propaganda tool. In the following chapters, I will argue that free speech as a concept is meaningless, that it is a dialectical smokescreen more than an ideal to be upheld, that in a grossly unequal society, in which a few corporations control the means of media dissemination and a small group of the ultra-wealthy bankroll entire political movements, there can be no meaningful definition of free speech. On paper, I'm free to speak as a billionaire. I am as free to speak as a billionaire. Yet I do not have the power to change laws through political donations, to influence college curricula, or to quash entire movements for economic liberation. And still, I hold more speech power than most. I am a published author, and my speech is sanctified by the gatekeepers of my publishing house. Therefore, the path to free speech, I will argue, has less to do with a law about speech, or many laws, than with ending racism and inequality. Throughout U.S. history, disparate groups have claimed to cherish free speech more than their enemies. Unionists in the 1920s saw free speech as synonymous with striking and ultimately class revolution. Today, conservatives are the group to most often shroud their politics in free speech, arguing that any silencing or protesting of their speech runs counter to U.S. values of freedom and liberty for all. But as I hope to prove in this book, free speech existed because freedom and liberty have never really existed for the vast majority of Americans. Instead, the U.S. has systematically acted against those values, suppressing the opportunities, speech, movements, and actions of the masses, especially people of color and anti-capitalists, in order to favor the free flow of capital to the owning class. This oppression and suppression have been constant since the founding of this country, and therefore free speech is a hollow signifier, pointing to a past that never existed. The fact about free speech is that it's been used to fight for and against, both as a guise for the wealthy and powerful to oppress the poor, like the Koch brothers and their supporters using free speech to push through anti-democratic legislation and rip apart campaign finance laws, and as a rhetorical tool for the working class to further their cause. And the ACLU argued it was the only way to prevent a violent revolution. I don't argue that one definition of free speech is more legitimate than the other, but that they are all relatively empty signifiers, hiding more tangible structures of power and ideas underneath them. So why write a book on free speech if I think the term is essentially meaningless? Because the concept holds so much weight in our country. We argue endlessly about whether it's being trampled on, whether college students hate it, whether the government is adequately upholding it, but we rarely ask what free speech is, or how we got to the free speech crisis we supposedly face today. When you scratch the surface of conversations over free speech, you find more difficult issues underneath. It's much easier to talk about the ability of conservatives to speak on college campuses than about the systemic racism, sexism, and transphobia college students experience. And those are the things students who protest campus visits by right-wing conservatives are actually fighting against. It's easier to fantasize about a country that values free speech than to grapple with the fact that we place so much emphasis on free speech while jailing dissidents and allowing tens of millions to live in poverty. What is free speech to someone who works 60 hours a week and has no time nor any platform to use their supposed right? There is relatively little literature and philosophy on free speech, despite the fact that it has been in constant contention since the founding of this country. Even the legal history of the First Amendment is sparse for something so foundational to the values of our country. A few have seriously grappled with ideas of what free speech does and does not mean, most notably literary theorist Stanley Fish, who has argued that the term does not mean much at all. Leftists like Noam Chomsky have written about free speech tangentially in their explorations of media as a propaganda tool. Most history books on speech are written as hagiographies, unquestioning the intent of the Founding Fathers and their morals, with a few notable exceptions, such as Laura Weintraub's The Taming of Free Speech. I don't intend to fill the yawning gap of research history and philosophy. This is not a definitive account of free speech, but a necessary intervention, prodding us to be more critical of the term, and maybe along with it, of the other lofty concepts we must hold near and dear. The case against free speech.
This is the Thom Hartmann Program.
Hey, happy Monday. Welcome back to me, I guess. It's so nice to be back here. Oh, I love doing this show. You and me for the next 3 hours. Thom Hartmann back here with you. Louise and I had a great time. We finished the book. It is now available for pre-order on Amazon and Powell, where you want to go. It's called The Last American President, and it's we got a lot to talk about today. I want to talk about the Superman movie. I want to talk about Epstein. I want to talk about Rosie O'Donnell and what this actually means in the first hour of our program. In the second hour of our program, I want to get into today's op-ed, my daily take, America on the Brink. Trump is putting us on the road to recession, fascism, and maybe even World War III. Also, is the forecast calling for extinction? What if this is the last generation that gets to ask what if? And is delusion the right's new weapon of mass deception, or destruction, excuse me? That'll kick off the third hour. And also, now Trump wants to destroy real Medicare. And they're coming for Medicare Advantage, too. What's left? So, the Trump administration and the Republicans very, very committed to screwing working class and poor elderly Americans, people over 65, so that they can pay for their tax cuts for their billionaire friends. So Elon Musk can, buy another rocket, and Jeff Bezos can have a $50 million wedding and rent Venice, and you know the drill, right? All that kind of stuff. So just to start out, Louise and I went to see Superman yesterday. We got back. By the way, we spent 2 weeks in Europe. We were in England. We had a great time there. We were just there for overnight. We were in Scotland for a couple of days. We were in Norway for a couple of days. We were in, and then we were in Iceland, and for 4 days, I think. And it was just a remarkable time and amazing. Iceland, Norway, Scotland, England. Well, I didn't see that much of England, but no homeless. We didn't see a single homeless person anywhere. Of course, these are all countries that have aggressive housing programs. These are all countries that do a really good job with their health care for everybody, universal coverage and everything else. So anyhow, we had a great time and had enough time to finish the damn book. Oh my. Anyhow, yesterday we went to see Superman, and this was amazing. James Gunn, who not only directed the film but wrote it, said that he said, Superman is the story of America, an immigrant that came from other places and populated the country. And story, this is basic human kindness is a value and is something we have lost. I mean, this is like, well, what it did is it flipped out the right wing. I mean, my take on the movie was that it was about Palestine or Gaza specifically, and that the bad guy is Bibi Netanyahu. Now, I realize there's some people who are saying, no, it's about Ukraine and the bad guy is Putin. It seemed more like Gaza Netanyahu to me. And then the president, we never see the president on screen, but the president wants to arrest, and in fact has the bad guy, Lex Luthor, who is a tech bro billionaire, by the way. He's Elon Musk, right? Superman takes on Elon Musk and Bibi Netanyahu. That's the movie, right? and in my opinion. And I'm not going to ruin the movie for you and to tell you the whole thing. Just giving you my take on the general theme of it. But it's a blockbuster. It's a hell of a movie. It's brilliantly done. The graphics are incredible. The CGI stuff. Yeah, I think it's the best Superman movie so far. But when James Gunn, the director and writer, did that interview, and he said, this is the story of an immigrant who comes to America, they went nuts on the right. I don't know if you've been tracking this stuff. Drudge was calling the movie super woke, and the banner read, iconic movie hero to embrace pro-immigrant. Jesse Waters, they're rather pathetic. I don't know what you can call him. Anyway, he said, notice on his cape, MS-13. Yeah, Jesse is so smart. Another genius. Gunn is trying to create a moat of woke, enlightened opinion around him. Kellyanne Conway. We didn't go to the movie theater to be lectured to and have somebody throw their ideology at us. Forgive me, I just can't stand her voice. And on Thursday, Trump jumps in. This was Thursday of last week. He jumps in and puts on his social media site a picture of himself. He puts his head on Superman, right? And it says, the symbol of hope, truth, justice, the American way, Superman Trump. Was the caption. And what happened? It's the Epstein tapes. We want to know about Epstein. Yeah. Superman actually was introduced in 1938 by two Jewish guys, Jerry Siegel and Joe Shuster. Shuster was born in Canada, by the way. And it was just as the Nazis were really starting their expansion in Europe. 39 was really when they invaded Poland. And by 1940, Superman was actually fighting the Nazis. And they're from the 1950s, and occasionally you run across these on the internet. There are all these, pictures, we would call them memes today. They were posters, actually, of Superman saying, America welcomes everybody. America welcomes immigrants. We're all humans here. And Superman gives a big speech about that toward the end of the movie. Again, I don't want to give away the movie, but it's just, it's really worth seeing. It was good, fun. We had a great time, and it was just great. Hang on just a second here, 272. So, anyhow, I also wanted to mention this whole Epstein thing. This is wild. I mean, Trump is trying as fast and hard as he can to get away from this. The Jeffrey Epstein evidence turns out it isn't missing. There's actually more than you can imagine. Nate grabbed some pictures here. He had a safe years ago. I think it was in 2006. There were videotapes. There were thumb drives. His server had 5 terabytes of data. Apparently, thousands of pictures. He had all the rooms and everything, all around his mansion in both his private island and also down the street from Trump Tower, where Donald Trump used to walk down. And for years and years, him and Jeffrey Epstein were, according to news reports, best buds. He had all those things wired, both for sound and for cameras. And it sure appears Pam Bondi is lying. And Maga's they're not taking it lying down. I mean, they're seriously pissed. They are seriously pissed. Fox and Friends, one of the guys on Fox and Friends on Sunday morning said, literally, we don't buy it. I don't buy it. The former Palm Beach state attorney, this is when Epstein was first arrested, said, quote, there was a safe and they had to use a saw to get into the safe, and there were hard drives and thumb drives in there. And there was a bunch of boxes out in the open after the raid, a 3-page list of evidence recovered in the raid. which, you know, a lot of digital evidence. And then, of course, there's Ghislaine I think it's pronounced Ghislaine, even though there's an S in it, Ghislaine Maxwell, who is in prison now in Florida. You know, Pam Bondi was the Attorney General of Florida. And according to witnesses at her trial, they introduced into evidence, actually, was an unredacted 97-page book that had shown up on 8chan. Somebody was trying to sell it. And the FBI had at least 2 black books, according to the evidence provided under oath by the government at trial. One was a case where Epstein's employees were trying to sell the little black book, and the other one was introduced at Maxwell's trial. So Pam Bondi is either lying now, or she was lying back on February 21st when she said, you know, I've got all this stuff sitting on my desk. But in either case, get ready, it's going to get wild. So what does it mean when the President of the United States says he is going to revoke the citizenship of a natural-born citizen, of a person born here in the United States, in this case, Rosie O'Donnell? What does that mean? I have a take on this I want to share with you. I'd love to get your opinions on it, get your thoughts, and then I'll be picking up your calls for the rest of the hour. So stick around. We'll be right back.
This is the Thom Hartmann Program.
And, of course, if you're new to the program, the number is 202-808-9925. Stay tuned. And welcome back. Ed in Chicago. Hey, Ed, thanks for watching us on Free Speech TV. What's on your mind today?
No, hey, Tom, welcome back.
Thank you.
Yeah, the reason I'm calling is something that astounded me. On July 10th, at that raid in California, the ICE raid, there was a disabled American veteran who was working there as a security guard. His name is George Rettes, R-E-T-E-S. And aside, I saw the initial report, the local news thing, and apparently this guy was trying to get out of the way. He was working. Right. He was disappeared, I guess, finally last night.
He's a disabled American vet, right?
American veteran, right, exactly. And finally, late last night, I guess he was finally released. But basically, this guy was disappeared. And here's my thing. I mean, my father was combat in World War II. I'm a veteran. And I just to think in this country that a disabled American veteran can be literally disappeared.
Yeah.
And it's not everywhere on the news. It's not on the headlines. It's not in the papers. And what also really disappoints me in this is I thought that this would come up on weekend talk shows. I thought the Democratic Party, in the House and the senators, everybody would be jumping on this like a dog with its not a freaking blip. Not a blip. Yeah. And I don't get it. I mean, I have no idea what this guy is, whether if he's an upstanding citizen or whatever. But still, an American disabled veteran is disappeared off the streets of our country by ICE, and the Democratic Party says nothing.
Well, and on top of that, that arrest was made with no warrant. The Fourth Amendment says that no arrest shall be made unless somebody swears under oath, you know?
It's just like one of these things, though. It's like, first of all, I never thought this would happen in our country. But then again, like I said, this is something that if you need something to pound the table about and break through to people who aren't aware of the news cycle like we are, this is a gift to you all.
Yeah.
And nothing. I mean, I was all over trying to find information on this over the weekend, and literally not a blip.
Yeah. You know, I've been thinking on the other side of this break, I want to talk about Rosie O'Donnell being basically a trial balloon. And Trump keeps putting these trial balloons up, where he tries out things to see how much blowback he's going to get. And if he doesn't get a lot of blowback, then he does more of it, right?
Exactly.
And I think this is one of those things. I really do. And and I'm thinking that should probably be the daily take that I write this afternoon for tomorrow's program and for tomorrw Hartmann Report newsletter. Because you're absolutely right. It deserves a lot more publicity.
I've been calling every rep I can and asking and telling them, again, this is I hate to be crass about it, but this is a political gift from the gods to the Democratic Party. What are you guys doing with it? I don't get it.
Yeah, and in fact, if for those people who are listening right now who regularly call their Democratic members of Congress, you're absolutely right, Ed. This is a great opportunity to call Congress 202-224-3121 and ask for your Democratic representative or senator and say, why are you not screaming from the rooftops about a disabled American vet, a U.S. citizen, being disappeared off the streets of America? By the way, they smashed his car window open. They smashed open. Can you imagine a masked goon with no identification, no warrant, smashing open the window of your car and snatching you, and then you vanish for weeks? I mean, if they can do it to him, they can do it to you and me, Ed. Ed, I got to run. Thanks a lot for the call. Missed my opening rant today? It's usually published over at HartmannReport.com, where you can read it and share it with your friends for free. Check it out, HartmannReport.com. So what do we call the really, really mind-bogglingly rich? At the founding of the Republic, they were referred to as speculators or moneyed interest or aristocrats. In the years leading up to the Civil War, we called them the cotton lords and the plantation aristocracy. In the late 19th century, they were the robber barons. In the 1930s, FDR called them the economic royalists. But since the Reagan Revolution, we've just called them billionaires. And now, some of them want to call themselves tech bros. Like, that's kind of a good thing, like tech is positive and bros, like Mark Zuckerberg saying we need more masculine energy in American business culture. So we need a new phrase. I would like to suggest the morbidly rich. Morbidly suggests unhealthy. And the vast riches that some of these people have is unhealthy to our democracy, particularly since 5 Republicans on the Supreme Court said that morbidly rich people can buy politicians. And it's unhealthy for them, too. So morbidly rich. There's an op-ed over at HartmannReport.com all about it. Check it out. What? No song? Okay, welcome back. 22 minutes past the hour. A couple of quick things I wanted to mention. And then I'll get to your phone calls here, because, I'm curious what y'all have been thinking and talking about for 2 weeks. I was largely unable to catch the program because we were, in completely different time zones and all that kind of thing. Although special thanks to Jefferson Smith. I mean, he's as you know, I'm sure by now, lifelong involved in progressive political activity. A former member of our Congress here in the state of Oregon, our legislature, and just a good guy who knows how to do radio, which is hard to find, frankly. People who know how to build out a show and interact with callers and can do a show without guests. It just kind of saddens me so often to see some of these people on TV and other programs where they just completely rely on guests for their show. But anyhow, that's inside baseball. You don't hear all that stuff. So 2 quick thoughts. Number one, somebody put, and Lucian Trescott, the fourth, blogging about this over Saturday. His headline, put a double prison guard on Ghislaine Maxwell. She knows more about Epstein and Trump than anybody. And like I mentioned before, she's in prison down in Florida. How long is it going to be before she suddenly, quote, commits suicide, end quote, or something terrible happens, or, who knows? But somebody should be paying some attention to that woman and what's going on. I mean, even Fox is now reporting on the Maga mutiny, right? But the other big story that I think is getting nowhere near enough attention in the media, and I did catch the Sunday shows, or several of the Sunday shows, over the weekend, and didn't see much mention of this. I mean, and when it was dismissed. Is Donald Trump threatening to revoke Rosie O'Donnell's citizenship? Now, Rosie O'Donnell has been, a thorn in Trump's side for years. She's brash, she's outspoken, she's a woman. Trump generally hates women. He views women as sex objects or subordinates, but that's about it. I mean, you even see that. Well, I don't want to get into his family stuff. It's probably unfair, but anyhow, I think it's just fairly obvious. And so she comes out and you know, calls him a fascist or words to that effect, and he says, you know, because of the fact that Rosie O'Donnell is not in the best interest of our great country, I'm giving serious consideration to taking away her citizenship. She's a threat to humanity and should remain in the wonderful country of Ireland if they want her. She has moved her family to Ireland because of Trump. Much like, you know, Tim Snyder, you know, the guy who wrote On Tyranny, and Jason Stanley, the guy who wrote the book on autocrats and fascism, have moved to Canada. They're now professors in Canada. But I think this is a trial balloon, and I think we should take this seriously. What Trump is saying is, I can come after people and pull their citizenship. This is what Hitler did. Right? He did it universally with Jews, but he did it first with his political opponents. Read The Rise and Fall of the Third Reich by William Scherer. It's like reading the New York Times right now. And citizenship is like an old trick that dictators use. And what Trump is doing is he's saying, are any Republicans going to stand up and speak out against this? Are any Democrats going to stand up and speak out against this? Is anybody outraged by my saying this? No? Oh, well, gee, maybe I should strip citizenship from Thom Hartmann. Maybe I should strip citizenship from Jamie Raskin. Maybe I should, you know, and it will probably begin if he decides to go down this road, and it sure looks to me like he does, because pretty much everything he talks about, he eventually does. But if it begins to go down this road, it'll probably start out with somebody whose skin is brown or black. And everybody will shrug, and he'll get away with it, and the courts will support it, and then he's going to come after you and me and everybody else.
You're listening to the Thom Hartmann Program. Call 202-808-9925.
So what say you? I'll pick up your calls on the other side of the break. What's on your mind?
It's the Thom Hartmann University Book Club, and today we're reading from Arundhati Roy's brilliant book, Capitalism, A Ghost Story. This is from the afterword, at the very end of the book. Yesterday morning, the police cleared Zuccotti Park, but today the people are back. The police should know that this protest is not a battle for territory. We're not fighting for the right to occupy a park here or there. We're fighting for justice. Justice is not just for the people of the United States, but for everybody. What you've achieved since September 17th, when the Occupy movement began in the United States, is to introduce a new imagination, a new political language into the heart of the empire. You've reintroduced the right to dream into a system that tried to turn everybody into zombies, mesmerized into equating mindless consumerism with happiness and fulfillment. As a writer, let me tell you, this is an immense achievement. I cannot thank you enough. We are talking about justice. Today, as we speak, the Army of the United States is waging a war of occupation in Iraq and Afghanistan. U.S. drones are killing civilians in Pakistan and beyond. Tens of thousands of U.S. troops and death squads are moving into Africa. If spending trillions of dollars of your money to administer occupations in Iraq and Afghanistan is not enough, a war against Iran is being talked up. Ever since the Great Depression, the manufacture of weapons and the export of war have been key ways in which the United States has stimulated its economy. Just recently, under President Obama, the United States made a $60 billion arms deal with Saudi Arabia. It hopes to sell thousands of bunker busters to the United Arab Emirates. It has sold $5 billion worth of military aircraft to my country, India, my country, which has more poor people than all the poorest countries of Africa put together. All these wars, from the bombing of Hiroshima and Nagasaki to Vietnam, Korea, Latin America, have claimed millions of lives. All of them fought to secure the, quote, American way of life, end quote. Today we know that the American way of life, the model that the rest of the world is meant to aspire toward, has resulted in 400 people owning the wealth of half the population of the United States. It has meant thousands of people being turned out of their homes and jobs while the U.S. government bailed out banks and corporations. American International Group alone was given $182 billion in the bailout. The Indian government worships U.S. economic policy.
As a result of 20 years of the free market economy, today 100 of India's richest people own assets equal to 1/4 of the country's GDP, while more than 80% of Indian people live on less than 50 cents a day. 250,000 farmers driven into a spiral of death have committed suicide. We call this progress and now think of ourselves as a superpower. Like you, we are well qualified, we have nuclear bombs and obscene inequality. The good news is that people have had enough and are just not going to take it anymore. The Occupy movement has joined thousands of other resistance movements all over the world in which the poorest of people are standing up and stopping the richest corporations in their tracks. Few of us dreamed that we would see it, the people of the United States on our side, trying to do this in the heart of empire. I don't know how to communicate the enormity of what this means. The 1% say we don't have demands. They don't know, perhaps, that our anger will have to destroy them. But there are some things, a few pre-revolutionary thoughts I had for us to think of together. We want to put a limit on manufacturers' inequality. We want to put a cap on the unfettered accumulation of wealth and property by individuals as well as corporations. As capitalists and Luddites, and one, an end to cross-ownership in business. For example, weapons manufacturers cannot own TV stations. Mining corporations cannot run newspapers. Business houses cannot fund universities, drug control public health funds. Natural resources and essential infrastructure, water supply, electricity, health, and education cannot be privatized. 3, everybody must have a right to shelter, education, and health. One of the rich cannot inherit their parents' wealth. This struggle has reawakened our imagination. Some capitalism reduced the idea of justice to mean just human rights. The idea and the idea of dreaming of equality became blasphemous. We're not fighting to tinker with reforming a system that needs to be replaced. As a capist and a Luddite, Salam and Zimbabwe. That's the end of the book. This is from the very opening of it, chapter 1. Is it a house or a home? A temple to the new India or a warehouse for its ghosts? Ever since Antilla arrived in Altamont Road in Mumbai, exuding mystery and a quiet menace, things have not been the same. Here we are, the friend who took me there said. Pay your respects to our ruler. Antilla belongs to India's richest man, Mukesh Ambani. I'd read about this most expensive dwelling ever built, the 27 floor pads, 9 lifts, hanging gardens, ballrooms, weather rooms, gymnasiums, 6 floors of parking, and 600 servants. Nothing had prepared me for the vertical lawn. That's why in a nation of 1.2 billion, India's 100 richest people own assets equivalent to 1/4 of the GDP. And then Arundhati Roy goes on from there talking about how India is kind of an example of capitalism run amok. Capitalism, a ghost story by Arundhati Roy.
Did you know that every weekday we send out an email before the show giving you all the topics coming up so you can be fully informed and ready to interact with our program? Or that after the show we send out Sue's Stack, a list of every topic I've discussed along with clickable hot links to every source of information I've shared with you on the air? It's all completely free and available over at thom.tv, THOM.tv. Check it out.
We stand at the edge. We're caught in the storm. The rich built their mansions. More. They bought the laws. They bought the courts. Now they're coming for the last of our rights, of course. They tell us it's over, say there's nothing to do. But the future is waiting on me and on you. This is the choice before tyranny. Stand up, rise up, or fall on our knees. History's watching, the moment is near. Will we choose courage or give in to fear? The billionaires smile as they fan the flame. Send the soldiers in, play the dictator's game. Parades in the street flow. Will we fight back or just let it go? We can break the chains before they're tight, but we have to choose, we have to fight. This is before tyranny. Stand up, rise up, or fall on our knees. History's watching, the moment is near. Will we choose courage or give in to fear?
Welcome back. 30 minutes past the hour, indeed. Well, June 17th is right around the corner, right? It's Thursday this week. Just a couple days down the road, that's the Good Trouble Day. And we're going to try to get more people out on the streets, than we had the last time around. So make some plans, huh? Get ready. All right, what's on your mind? Emil in Boise, Idaho. Am I pronouncing your name right? Oh.
The Botox Barbie.
You're talking Pam Bondi? Or are you talking the DHS secretary?
No.
Christy.
DHS.
Yeah.
Yeah, so anything over $100,000 has to be approved for her for funding.
Oh,
right?
yeah, it was Christy Noem, yes, for FEMA, yes. And that's why FEMA didn't respond to what happened in Texas for 3 whole days, 72 hours.
Well, more than that, because I was a first responder for 30 years with the federal government. So anyway, that was kind of like, are you kidding me? And so now they're funding $450 million FEMA for alligator Alcatraz, right? But then now they're looking at 5 other states to do the same thing. And it's like, okay, where's that funding coming from?
Well, here's a larger issue, larger question, Emil.
Sure.
Both Barack Obama and Joe Biden, in their first 6 months, and we're 6 months into Trump now, both of them deported more people than Trump did. Now, the reason why is because they caught people who were in the country illegally and said, sorry, buddy, you're not supposed to be here. We're putting you on a plane and you're going to end up in Mexico City or Tijuana or whatever. I mean, they just moved them out of the country. Trump is not talking about moving people out. I mean, he's talking big about camps. Remember when Obama was president and all the right-wingers were all hysterical? The FEMA camps! Oh, my God, he's going to put the conservatives in the FEMA camps. They're coming to get us. Oh, there's a FEMA camp in my state. There's a FEMA... they were all hysterical. Trump is actually building these damn camps. And nobody is saying, hey, wait a minute, why is he building them? If these people are supposed to move them out. If they're criminals, put them in our prison system. If he is a robber or a rapist or something, give them a trial, send them to the state or federal penitentiary, depending on what kind of crime it was and where it was committed. And then when their sentence is done, deport them. That's what every president going back to Eisenhower did. But Trump is saying, we're going to pick up your gardener, or we're going to pick up the guy who's building a house down the street, or the guy who's standing outside Home Depot, and we're going to put him in a place, a hellish place, 34 people in a cage
with no room to do anything. Nobody supervising them. People getting in fights. It's just a god-awful hellhole. We're going to leave you there. We're going to send you to Guantanamo. These are concentration camps. This is the exact stuff.
Yes.
All these right-wingers were hysterical about, Emil. And again, nobody's talking about it like this. I don't get it.
Yeah, they are. I mean, Alligator, Alcatraz is a concentration camp.
Yeah, it's alligator
horrible.
Auschwitz is what they're calling it.
It's horrible. I mean, it's disgusting and horrible to me. My father was an immigrant, and it was like I couldn't.
So was my grandfather.
Yeah, it's like, oh my God, really? You're going to put people in these camps because they are undesirables.
Because
right?
they have brown skin. I have yet to see a European being arrested.
Here's the thing, Tom. If you're brown, you're going down. If you're white, you're right.
Yeah, there's over 500,000 white illegal immigrants in the United States, in Europe.
Really?
Some from Canada. Yeah. Well, she got a genius visa because she is a person who's so brilliant that she is essential to the national security of the United States.
Yeah, I'm sure she qualified as a mentor.
She got the Einstein visa. Honest to God, I mean, visas that go to. One of them went to the guys who built the atomic bomb. The rocket scientists. The German, the ex-Nazis. That's when they. Oppenheimer and these guys. I believe, now fact check me because I'm running on a 50-year-old memory here from having read Shearer's book, but I believe that's when we came up with these visas. And they're specifically for people who can contribute to the national security of the United States because of their genius. That's the visa that Melania Trump got. It's nuts. Emil, I got to move along to other callers here, but thanks for a great conversation. I appreciate the call. Anthony in York County, Pennsylvania. Hey, Anthony, what's on your mind today? Anthony?
Yeah, I'm right here, sir.
Say what?
Hello?
Yeah, you're on the air.
Yeah, I'm right here. Okay. I'm calling because I'm a long-time political person across the country, serving in 2 government positions. Wasn't born here in the States, been here 60 years. I hope they don't pick me up, send me home. I've not done anything to the English-speaking Caribbean. But I was around with the Nixon years and the big problem Nixon had with that minor, what I call a minor privilege about the Kennedy. I live in the D.C. area 90 years. I've been in the president time. Now, I suspect that Trump and his gang are going to end up, most of them will end up in prison. He might be dead before then, whatever, assassination, whomever, do that kind of stuff. But a lot of those guys were serving in offices, just like the Nixon years, Stephen Miller, etc.
Yeah, John Mitchell went to prison. I think there were over a dozen Nixon officials who went to prison.
The guy who was his chief counsel, all the rest went to prison.
Yeah, and, John Dean went to prison. He's been a guest on our program. So you're saying that you think that this is going to be the fate of Trump and his guys. Somehow I doubt it, but we'll see. I mean, that was back in the day when Republicans actually stood for the rule of law. Now Republicans stand for nothing.
Well, we have enough Democrats
other than billionaire tax cuts.
That space.
So what?
We have enough Democrats, the progressives, and some of the moderates. We have enough Democrats to take up that space now.
Yeah.
It's a different age, a different time, generations away. But I can see it coming.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see, Anthony. We'll we will see. Time will tell, as the old saying goes. Anthony, thanks for the call. It's 44 minutes past the hour. I'll be back with more of your calls in just a moment. Stay with us. It's the Thom Hartmann program. Fair and only slightly unbalanced. We'll be right back with you.
You're listening to Thom Hartmann. Visit thomhartmann.com for audio and video archives.
This is the place where smart people get their news. What's on your mind? I'll pick up your calls right after this. And welcome back, Omar in Herndon, Virginia. Hey, Omar, what's on your mind today?
Thank you so much for taking my call. Welcome back. Tom, if you ever decided to hang it up, you should hand over the flag to Jefferson Smith.
Okay. He did a good job, huh?
Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah. But Tom, real quick before I get to my main point, there's an interesting article from Bondi First Magazine. They did an interview with one of Putin's top aides, and he basically said that Putin has come to this conclusion that he's going to let the battle determine the war with Ukraine, and he's no longer interested in negotiation, and his strategy is basically a death by 1,000 cuts.
Yeah. Well, and that's why I'm very concerned that Trump this morning gave Putin another 2 months, 50 days. And in 2 months, basically what he's saying to Vladimir Putin, in my opinion, because Trump has still not imposed any tariffs on Russia. I mean, and maybe he'll sell, the NATO countries some weaponry, quack, we'll see. And maybe it'll take 50 days to happen. I'm color me cynical here, Omar, but my main message that Donald Trump delivered, and I was surprised I didn't hear any of the analysts on MSNBC this morning that I was listening to while I was doing show prep mention this. But I think that the message that he delivered to Vladimir Putin this morning was, you have 50 days to utterly destroy Ukraine, to bomb the crap out of Kyiv, to assassinate Zelensky. And if you can pull that off in 50 days, the country's yours. And if you can't pull that off in 50 days, then we're going to stop. We're going to stop you.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, their strategy, they're going to be focused on infrastructures, power plants, electricity, water plants, everything. Basically, this is different. Yeah. But what I wanted to talk about, Tom, what control does Congress have over the cut funding to DOJ to release a report? I mean, do they have any authority? Because I know with the U.S. attorney during that whole situation when Epstein came up, and Bondi, if I'm not mistaken, was the attorney general. So there's a lot of stuff mixed up, and I think getting it all out, can Congress do anything? Is there any oversight or power?
Under the law and the Constitution, only Congress can raise taxes, only Congress can establish tariffs, and only Congress can appropriate money and define spending. And money that Congress appropriates to be spent must be spent the way that Congress specifies, according to the Constitution. It's all in Article 1, Section 8. Very easy to read. It's completely unambiguous. The simple fact of the matter is, though, that Trump has been defying this. He's been refusing to spend money that Congress appropriated. This is why they're talking right now about, Republicans are talking about this, quote, rescission bill, which is basically providing legal authority after the fact. It's the same thing Congress did when Bush illegally started bombing Iraq, and then Congress had to convene, a couple months later and give him retroactive authority, so that he couldn't go to prison, I guess. But that's how it's supposed to work, Omar. That Congress could pull the whole thing tomorrow if they wanted to. Of course, Congress is in the hands of, so that's small comfort.
But in terms of like them getting the report out, there's nothing.
Getting the report out? You're talking about the Epstein stuff?
The Epstein information, yes. Whatever.
Yeah, Congress could mandate that. Congress could require that, and because the Constitution says the president must make sure that the laws are faithfully executed, or he must faithfully execute the laws. It's kind of archaic language. I'm paraphrasing. I don't have it exactly right, but it's close to that. Omar, thank you for the call. Nice to hear your voice again. It's 48 minutes past the hour. I'll be right back with you. Our daily song is now available on Spotify, Apple Music, Amazon Music, YouTube Music, Pandora, Tidal, Deezer, iHeartRadio, and a whole bunch of other platforms. Just look for songs by Louise and Thom Hartmann. Check it out. So have you noticed that the Republicans are pretty much not talking about a constitutional convention anymore? They used to be gung-ho to rewrite the Constitution. They wanted to put corporate personhood in there. They wanted to change it so that women can't vote. They wanted to do away with the election of senators, repeal the 17th Amendment, take us back to them being appointed by the states. They had all these weird, they wanted to outlaw labor unions, all these weird ideas, but they've stopped talking about it. I mean, they're still
moving forward on it, but it's not. Project 2025, for example, their ultimate talking document does not have one single mention in it about a constitutional convention. Why would that be? Well, it's because the Supreme Court is doing their work for them. I mean, they have overturned Article 2. They've overturned the 14th Amendments. They've overturned Article 1, Section 7. All the details of this whole thing are over at HartmannReport.com. You got to check it out.
Tie, told the boys in hard hats I'll stand and fight, but behind that grin and the photo flash was a deal with the devil and a payday stash. Steel was strong, but the truth is cold. He sold out the workers for a bar of gold. Laid off in Gary, gone in Duluth, while the billionaires laughed in their tailored suits. It's the great American terrorist scam, a fistful of promises, a smokescreen sham. Jobs fall down while the prices climb, and the ones that get rich are the friends of the crime. He said, I'm here to help, then he took what he can. That's the great American tariff scam.
Welcome back, 51 minutes past the hour. I missed Louise's songs. Oh, my. 9 minutes before the hour. Joe, Chicago. Hey, Joe, what's
Hi, welcome back, and I will confirm Jefferson Smith did a fantastic job, very informative last week.
I'm so glad to hear that. Thank you.
And I just wanted to comment on the Republicans' quest to destroy public broadcasting, NPR, and the Senate is picking it up, I guess, this week. Democrats are still, for some weird reason, going with this top-line issue because of all these people in rural America depend upon the news for life-saving information. You don't have any other news sources, which probably is true to some extent, but I don't envision hordes of people in rural Republican counties listening to lots of NPR public broadcasting. What the Democrats should be saying, in my opinion, is that NPR and public broadcasting represents truth, facts, science, history, and that is why the Republicans want to destroy it. They want to get everything out of the way so they can promote their corrupt, delusional world of lies.
Yeah.
And the Democrats, by failing to go head on to what the issue is making a big mistake. And again, another example of their problems of effective messaging.
Yeah. Did you, Lincoln Project ad from last week, I posted it on Blue Sky, I believe. In fact, I included it in my Saturday report, at the Hartmann Report newsletter, the YouTube clip of it, where the guys say, they actually name names. They say Pam Bondi, Kristi Noem, Thom Hartmann, we are coming for you when the Democrats are back in power and you are going to prison. Did you catch that?
I did not see it, but I'm glad they're saying that.
It's astonishing. It's absolutely astonishing. I'm going to have to dig it up and show tomorrow so that we can share it with people, because it is just so breathtaking. I agree with you, Joe. The Democrats are too damn nice. They're just too damn nice. They need to learn how to take names and kick ass. Oh, you've got it, Nate? Okay, Nate says in 10 seconds he can play it. So if you want to pull up the audio on the board there, Sean, and tell us when we're all ready. We will play this thing. This is just awesome. Hang on here, Joe. You ready to go? Okay, here we go.
Alligator Alcatraz, an impregnable prison camp surrounded by miles of the most deadly parts of Florida. Poisonous snakes, fierce and hungry alligators, miles of unmapped swamps, storms, hurricanes, fierce heat. No one's getting out of Alligator Alcatraz. The people in Alligator Alcatraz are subhumans, the worst of the worst. Alligator Alcatraz is going to teach these criminals a lesson. If you're upset, Alcatraz, just wait. Because when the Trump era ends, we're keeping it open for the corrupt crypto scammers like Don Jr., who cashed in on the presidency. Keeping it open for folks like Stephen Miller, Kristi Noem, and Thom Hartmann. who ignore the law, ignore court orders, and deploy masked cops and warrantless raids. We're even keeping it open for the state and federal agents who abuse their power. You built this, MAGA, and some of you will enjoy the view from inside the wire.
There you go. Isn't that amazing, Joe?
It definitely is nice as here.
Yeah, there you go. So I agree. Democrats need to start talking like that. Joe, thanks a lot for the call. Great to hear from you. Mike in Carson City, Nevada. Hey, Mike, what's up?
Hey, how are you? I finally got through. I'm happy to be on your show.
Thank you.
I was a union organizer for 30 years, and during the course, it was a great life. During the course of my career, we ran a number of corporate campaigns against major corporations and won. And the boycott against Elon Musk and the boycott at the border by Canadians not coming into the country and buying things is a powerful reflection of organic boycotting. Nobody's reporting on it, but people need to figure out a way to stop spending their money and enriching these.
Did you see that the reporting that the Amazon, they do this hype thing every year, and it was last week that they were like 30% down on their on what they were expecting. The percentage was something like that. I'm doing this from memory here.
Well, the blood of the corporation is money.
Yep.
So if people, I've been talking to friends about it, and people need to find a way to stop buying.
Yeah. Buying. I think part of it is that people are no longer patronizing, the businesses that they don't like. Like so many of us canceled our subscriptions to the Washington Post, but when they refused to endorse Biden. But beyond that, I think that Trump is bringing us a second Republican Great Depression, and people have a strong sense of it right now. People are figuring it out, that he's crashing the economy. And of course, the billionaires love it when the economy crashes because it's a buying opportunity for them. That's why he's doing it. It's in large part, in my opinion. Mike, I got to run, but thank you. It's great. I'm glad you made it through. Look forward to future conversations. Thanks for the call. It's, we're hitting the top of the hour. We'll be back on the other side. America on the brink. Is Trump leading us to World War III? Stay tuned.
You're listening to Thom Hartmann.
In addition to bringing you the Thom Hartmann program here on Free Speech TV and Video Media Online, we also have a whole set of ways you can interact with us and tools you can use to spread the word about the importance of democracy and the threats to it in our republic. First, there's your daily homework. Sue Nethercutt puts together a daily email newsletter that has a link to every story I discuss on the air, so you can find my sources and you can share them with your friends. It's free and you can sign up at thomhartmann.com. Second, I publish my day over at the HartmannReport.com website. That's also free if you want the daily 5 days a week rant in your inbox. No ads either. Third, we have the podcasts. There's the free 1-hour version of our daily show that's advertising supported. You can find that wherever you get your podcasts normally. And then there's also the podcast of the entire 3-hour show with no advertisements, and that's available by subscription over at thomhartmann.com. So check them all out at thomhartmann.com and hartmannreport.com.
Our book for today is Kickback, Exposing the Global Corporate Bribery Network by David Montero. This is from the introduction, Chapter 1. During Watergate, the appointment of a special prosecutor to investigate Richard Nixon's alleged tampering with elections was intended to mark the close of a sordid chapter in American history. Instead, that effort, culminating in Nixon's resignation, would prove to be only the beginning of a deeper political morass that America would face for decades to come. Congressional investigations would uncover for the first time that multinational corporations, through slush funds and bribes, were not only secretly funding political organizations at home, like Nixon's re-election campaign, but corrupting foreign officials abroad. This new perspective on the corporate abuse of power and its impact overseas would result in the Foreign Corrupt Practices Act, FPCA, groundbreaking legislation that, by prohibiting commercial bribery for the first time in history, sought to change how capitalism and political affairs were conducted all around the world. Now, more than 40 years later, we are experiencing a kind of deja vu as the special counsel investigates whether the president allegedly abused his power, again by obstructing an inquiry into a possible manipulation of our country's elections. Just as was the case in Watergate, whatever special counsel Robert Mueller uncovers will likely mark the beginning, rather than the end, of a reassessment of how power actually operates in this country. And just as in Watergate, there's the possibility that Mueller's far-reaching probe may reveal how tightly political corruption and corruption are linked through bribery just under the surface of America's political life. Nixon was the recipient of secret corporate donations, which were considered illegal because they should have been disclosed. But the payments, while unlawful, did not compromise the presidential election itself. Mueller's Russian inquiry is directed at a potentially far more serious crime, whether Donald Trump, the head of a sprawling business empire, colluded with a foreign power to deliberately sway the American electorate, committing the very crime that the FCPA had been trying to eradicate since Watergate, the offer of a foreign bribe, a kickback. That law states that a corporate bribe need not involve an actual exchange of money. An offer of anything of value, such as a promise to a foreign government official, is sufficient to violate its terms. This is precisely what Mueller is trying to ascertain, whether Trump, his company, his associates, or his family, or some combination of them, offered a promise to Russian government officials, a quid pro quo, that if they helped Trump by manipulating the elections, Trump, if victorious, would ease U.S. sanctions against Russia. Doing so would allow greater U.S. investment of Russia and would benefit Russian officials and oligarchs, the Trump business organization, the corporate interests of the Trump family, and former members of his senior staff, including Paul Manafort, his one-time campaign chairman, and Michael Flynn, his disgraced national security advisor. If the Trump organization or anyone connected with it did make such a promise, and depending on how that promise was conveyed to Russian officials, the Justice Department would have strong grounds for pursuing an FCPA charge, among others. An FCPA violation is within Mueller's mandate to investigate, quote, any matters that arose or may arise directly from this investigation. As has been widely observed, Mueller has hired 2 former federal law enforcement officials with extensive experience in investigating fraud, money laundering, and overseas bribery. Andrew Weissman, who ran the Justice Department's fraud section, which enforces the FCPA, and Greg Andres, who helped oversee FCPA policy in the criminal division. The drama playing out in Washington starkly highlights the fact that foreign corporate bribery can be a deeply misleading term. We have come to regard it, when we think of it at all, as something that unscrupulous companies do in distant countries, so that any impact it has must be contained overseas. If a corporation pays kickbacks to a greedy government official abroad, why should we be concerned? But in a highly interconnected world, bound together by a global market, a global financial system, and the constant migration of peoples, goods, capital, corruption rarely stays out there. Bribes eventually harm Americans, American society, American values, and American interests, both domestically and around the world, in ways that are difficult to gauge. Why do firms resort to bribery? The obvious reason is to gain an advantage over their competitors. But illicit payments also buy the illusion of growth in the short term, of increased market share and inflated firm value. It does not take into account the harm that this practice causes to companies themselves, sinking employee morale, diminished profit margins, and the possibility of hundreds of millions of dollars in fines and penalties, not to mention a reputation with corruption and deceit. They also effectively steal the public's money. The majority of bribery cases involve capital-intensive development and infrastructure projects such as roads, dam systems, oil extraction, or mining that are publicly funded. To recoup the bribes involved in winning such contracts, companies conspire with foreign officials to inflate the costs, sometimes by 10 or even hundreds of millions of dollars. The companies and the officials win out, taxpayers are left shouldering the burden. Corporate bribes involve a remarkable amount of money. The World Bank has estimated $1 trillion a year, although this may represent the high end. Others have placed the market at 10% of the $4 trillion spent annually on global public procurement. The book Kickback by David Montero.
This is the Thom Hartmann Program.
Hi, welcome to the second hour of our program. My op-ed today, my daily take over at HartmannReport.com, is titled America on the Brink, Trump's Roadmap to Recession, Fascism, and World War III. And what got me started thinking about all this, frankly, were three articles that ran in the Financial Times over the weekend. I read them on Saturday. And one was about how there was this thing called the Dutch disease. This is, economists have this phrase, it's called the Dutch disease. And it refers to a time, early, back in the middle of the last century, when Holland discovered natural gas. And suddenly they're kind of agriculture-based manufacturing, but mostly, agriculture and cows and cheese and stuff like that. And suddenly their economy had this brand new resource and it just popped. And the consequence of that was that a small number of people basically controlled that sector. And they ended up gaining vast amounts of wealth and with it political power. And it actually damaged the Dutch economy. And that damage to the Dutch economy then led to political chaos. So, that was where I kind of started with this. And they pointed out, in fact, I believe the title of the article was something like, "Is America Experiencing the Dutch Disease?" And so that got me thinking about, the economy and all of this sort of thing. Another was about how the William Colby was the CIA director during the Vietnam War era. And, ran the secret bombing campaigns and stuff. His grandson is now Pete Hegseth's right-hand man. In fact, he's apparently the guy who cut off the shipping of weapons to Ukraine when Trump said, I didn't know that happened. Whether Hegseth told him to or whether he simply did it on behalf of Hegseth or what, I'm not sure anybody knows. I've read conflicting reports in the press. But anyhow, he reached out to Japan and Australia recently, and this was what this Financial Times article was all about, and it was, kind of hair on fire, and said, if China takes Taiwan, are you ready to go to war with China? Are you ready to commit to the United States? This is Japan and Australia, two of our allies. Are you ready to commit to the United States that you will go to war to defend Taiwan? And now, Joe Biden, on four different occasions, as I recall, and double check that, but I'm pretty sure it might have even been five, but I'm pretty sure it was four different times, said that he would consider going to war against China over Taiwan. To the best of my knowledge, Donald Trump has never said that. But here you've got this guy, the Colby, Elbridge Colby, I believe is his name, in the Defense Department, working for Hegseth, number two guy, or one of the number two guys, who is reaching out to our allies saying, are you ready to go to war? And that evoked, and in fact the article mentioned, this thing called the Thucydides trap. Thucydides was a Greek philosopher who came up with this theory based on history that has held for thousands of years, that when a great power begins to decline and a secondary power begins to grow and reaches the point where it can economically challenge the great power, that usually leads. And we are now at the point where China's middle class is larger than the entire population of the United States, where China has literally tens of thousands of miles of high-speed rail. We have none. China has, these gleaming brand new cities. They've got $8,000 electric cars it's just, China's just kicking ass economically. And their GDP is, as I recall, in the neighborhood of 29 trillion a year. We're 33, I think, as I recall. So they're catching up with us. They are building military equipment far faster than we are. They're doing drones. There's an amazing video out a couple of days ago. It was celebrating some Chinese holiday where they had, it was like a dragon in the sky, this giant multicolored dragon in the sky, and each little dot of light was a drone. It was a swarm of, thousands of drones that were computer controlled, interacting with each other and with the mothership, as it were, creating this dragon in the sky. Well, you could just as easily arm those drones and just take out an army with them. And there was a piece in the Wall Street Journal over the weekend about how the United States has virtually no drones. Or those kinds of drones. We have none. This is what Ukraine used to take out those bombers in Russia, 3-4 weeks ago. Operation Paperclip? No, that was World War II. Whatever it was. And so anyhow, the article was like saying, asking the question, are we on the edge of the Thucydides trap? And so I kind of put all this stuff into my brain, and out came this article. The headlines are wild. Trump is threatening nutso tariffs against traditional trading partners, our alliances. Of course, no tariffs yet on Russia. He's demanding that our allies proclaim their willingness to go to war with China. And along with his billionaire buddies, and this is the Dutch disease, he's looting our government while immiserating small business and the American middle class. And as a result, we stand on these three kind of verges. One is an economic collapse, and I believe that we are already into it. I told you before, I'm seeing the evidence of it in subscriptions to my newsletter, in advertisers to this program. And it's not just my program. I know that, I've talked to the ad agency. It's just like, and you see the same thing on TV. When you see these ads on MSNBC or CNN for, don't drive drunk, or, eyes on the road, or whatever, you see, they're called public service announcements. When you see those, that means they couldn't sell an ad. And that's a bad sign, right? That's a sign that the country, the recession, when advertisers start withdrawing. And so you look at this stuff, and then look at the housing market right now. We've got a housing market that is in deep trouble. And the housing inventory, and again, you'll see news stories about this all the time in the press. These are all leading indicators. These are all the things that you see 2, 3, 6, sometimes 9 months before you're officially in a recession. And so what happens when countries go into recessions, and we've arguably been in a sort of recession ever since the Reagan era, at least for the working class, as salaries have exploded on the top and the salaries on the bottom have just flattened. In fact, it now takes 2 full-time salaries to provide the same lifestyle that you could do in 1980 with one. What happens when the economy like this, like what we're seeing right now, I think, is that people start demanding answers. You know, who did this to me? And of course, politicians are always happy to provide the answer being them. For Trump, the them is brown people, and Canada, and Mexico, and Europe, and you know, and our response is going to be tariffs, and all that kind of stuff. And this this third article that I read in the Financial Times was about how World War I, how in 1914. The famous economist who advised Roosevelt, John Maynard Keynes, the British economist, basically said, you know, everything's great, but look out. And sure enough, here came this giant whack to the economy of Europe, which arguably, you know, people are still fighting over what caused World War I, but you know, there is one strong theory that the economics played an actually very large role. This was kind of the tail end of the Industrial Revolution, and workers, and this was, you know, before you saw the widespread development of trade unions in Europe, and so people were pissed, and they were ready to go to war, and so here we are in a situation where the country's being looted by the billionaires, and Trump's big beautiful bill was that it just looting. You know, I mean, they're taking another $4 trillion and putting it in their pockets and putting the bill on our children's tab. You've got Trump disrupting the international order that has kept the world safe from World War III for 80 years. And, you know, and now antagonizing China. I mean, he's just like, it's schizophrenic. One day he loves Putin, the next day he hates him. One day he loves China, the next day, and they're giving gifts to his daughter. And the next day he hates them. And it's just, this is the kind of stuff that led to World War I. And arguably to World War II as well. Of course, Hitler rose out of the ashes of the Republican Great Depression, as did Tojo. And then on top of that, you've got you've got the economic stagnation, and on top of that, you've got the rise of fascism here in the United States. You've got a counter-revolution, a revolution against the American Revolution. You've got right-wingers trying to turn the American into a neo-fascist state. And our economy, by the way, the other big thing is that our economy has been shifted away from making things, which is how you grow the wealth of a country, to moving money around. It's been financialization. This started with Reagan when he legalized stock buybacks. And what that does is it diminishes the wealth of the country, and then that further enrages the working. So I put all this stuff together and basically say the Democrats understand this. Joe Biden was trying to get us out of this. He was trying to build stuff to make things again, which would put the economy back in shape, to get unions and things, you know, to bring the middle class back. Trump is gutting all that. He's stopping all of the spending that would build the country. He's setting us up for a recession and maybe a depression. He's setting us up for, frankly, World War III. And frankly, I'm not hearing very many Democrats yelling about this stuff. So please check out my article. It's at HartmannReport.com today. Calling for all of us to be speaking out about this.
This is the Thom Hartmann program.
Because the Third World War, while it might not end humanity, could easily end Western civilization. I mean, if Hitler had won, that would have been it. It could happen again. And welcome back. Picking up your calls here. Gabe in Pacerville, California. Hey, Gabe, thanks for watching us on Free Speech TV. What's on your mind today?
Of course. Hey, Tom, good to see you back. And hey, I really enjoyed your opening rant about Superman. And I think it's got me a little bit more enthralled to go check out the film.
It's a great movie. It's just good, dumb fun. You know, it's a great movie.
Yeah, I'll have to go check it out. Hey, I don't know if you know or not, but in the 40s, Superman took on the Klan. Yes. And there was a radio show, a 16-part episode right now off of the Wikipedia called Clan of the Fiery Cross. And from the radio series is from the radio series of Adventures of Superman. Mm-hmm. And in 1946, Superman, in the show, Superman exposed the Ku Klux Klan's code words, rituals, and its bigotry. And it's all based on intelligence from the activist Stinson Kennedy, who infiltrated the Klan. And the radio show really damaged the group's reputation, and led to steep decline in membership from the Klan. Which
now I knew that the Klan really kind of collapsed. Collapse is way too strong, because the Klan is still, in many ways, they've kind of reinvented themselves as Proud Boys and Three Percenters and whatnot. But and they really exploded in the 19-teens when Woodrow Wilson put Birth of the Nation in the White House. But then in the 40s, they kind of collapsed. And I always figured it was just World War II. But you're suggesting it was the Superman series. That's fascinating, Gabe.
Yeah, it really is. And I'm sure if all the yahoos on Fox were to find out, they'd probably lose their mind.
Yeah.
I mean, for them to be peeing their pants about Superman being an immigrant and saying this is just woke propaganda, it's more of their nonsense.
I think it's lovely.
It's
great. God bless James Gunn.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I really will have to go check out the film. I'm really excited to see it.
What I'm wondering, Gabe, is if this is going to be the beginning of a new era of activist movies. The Deer Hunter and all those other movies about Vietnam back in the 70s. We've seen these, and in the 50s there were anti-fascist movies. Even Casablanca was arguably an anti-fascist movie. That was, and I just wonder if right now, or over the last 6 months anyway, the writers in Hollywood, of course it's, a production cycle is half, if right now the writers are producing the movies that we will be seeing in the theaters next year that will have anti-fascist themes. I'm hopeful. I hope that's the case. I don't have.
Yeah, I hope so.
I don't
too,
have any inside information.
I'm sure that's something that Trump might want to try to smash. So
yeah, of course he would. Of course he would. Yeah, let him whine some more, right? Gabe, thanks for the call. Nice to hear from you. I appreciate it. 22 minutes past the hour. We'll be right back. With you. You can be calling your Democratic or Republican representatives to let them know what you think by calling 202-224-3121. It's the Capitol switchboard. It'll get you right through to them. They called it blood libel. Germans were doing against the Jews, claiming that they were using the blood of Christian children to make their matzah. We've got a new blood libel now here in the United States. J.D. Vance and Donald Trump lying through their teeth, arguing that black Haitian immigrants to the United States, legal immigrants with green cards in this little town in Ohio, are eating pets. And this is another libel that goes way back. In the 1890s, people were claiming German and Dutch immigrants were eating pets. Then they claimed in the 1880s, and actually as recently as last year, a restaurant got shut down in California because of claims that they were serving pets. They weren't. It was an Asian restaurant. This is just evil stuff, these lies and spreading this kind of hate. And this is now the strategy that the Republicans are using. There's a whole article about it at HartmannReport.com. Hate as a political weapon. Check it out.
There's a fire in the headlines, smoke in the sky. Dreams are collapsing, and nobody asks why. The rich raise their glasses, the poor raise the rent, and the truth gets buried with the money they spent. They sold off the factories, gutted the towns, called it freedom while they burned it all down. Tariffs and threats like a madman's parade, and the workers just watch while their futures decay. We're standing on the brink of disaster. The world's spinning faster and faster. If we don't rise now, we may lose it all. To greed, to war, to a tyrant's call. Oh, the soul of the nation is under attack. If we fall asleep, we may never come back. They shout about greatness, but whisper in code. Blame the broken while they steal the whole load. The law's been for billionaires, justice runs cold, and the promises rot like the lies that they told. Now they're arming the borders in silence and truth, feeding our anger, corrupting our youth, while behind the curtain they broker the deals, and the weight of the silence is all we can feel. We're standing on the brink of disaster. The lies echo louder and louder. If we don't fight now, we may lose the flame to fear, to hate.
So show up
to
on
a
the 17th, eh? 26 minutes past the hour. I want to get into a little bit of a rant here, and I'll do it on the other side of the break, but about climate science. David Suzuki, the famous scientist, came out and said, this is it. This is it. This is our do or die moment. And in fact, he's concerned that we might have passed that moment. And I wanted to share some stats with you. And I wrote about this while we were on vacation. I wrote a daily take every single day while Louise and I were on vacation. We published them at hartmannreport.com. And I know a lot of you read them. They're free, you know. It comes right in your in your inbox. So so anyhow, I want to get into those stats of the day. And I'll do that on the other side of this break. So stay tuned. It's 27 past the hour.
You're listening to the Thom Hartmann Program. Call 202-808-9925.
It's your media support group for We the People. I'll share my thoughts with you on this, and we'll pick up your calls on the other side of the break. Stay with us. It's the Thom Hartmann University Book Club. Today we're reading from the Undercommons, Fugitive Planning and Black Study by Stefano Harney and Fred Moten. This is from the introduction. It starts with love, exchange, fellowship. It ends as it begins, in motion, in between various modes of being and belonging, new economies of giving, taking, being with and for. And it ends with a ride in a Buick Skylark on a way to another place altogether. Surprising, perhaps, after we have engaged dispossession, debt, dislocation, and violence, but not surprising when you have understood that the projects of fugitive planning and black study are mostly about reaching out to find connection. They are about making common cause with the brokenness of being, a brokenness, I would venture to say, that is also blackness, that remains blackness, and will, despite all, remain broken, because this book is not a prescription for repair. If we do not seek to fix what has been broken, how do we resolve to live with brokenness, with being broke, which is also what Moten and Harney called debt? Well, given that debt is sometimes a history of giving, at other times a history of taking, at all times a history of capitalism, and given that debt also signifies a promise of ownership but never delivers on that promise, we have to understand that debt is something that cannot be paid off. Debt, as Harney puts it, presumes a kind of individualized realization to a naturalized economy that is predicated upon exploitation. Can we have, he asks, another sense of what is owed that does not presume a nexus of activities like recognition and acknowledgement, payment and gratitude? Can debt become a principle of elaboration? Moten thinks economic links
Moten links economic debt to the brokenness of being in the interview with Stefan Shukatis, who he acknowledges that some debts should be paid and that much is owed, especially to black people, by white people. And yet he says, I also know that it is, that what it is that is supposed to be repaired is irreparable. It can't be repaired. The only thing is to tear this stuff down completely and build something new, end of quote. The undercommons do not come to pay their debts, to repair what has been broken, to fix what has been undone. If you want to know what the undercommons wants, what Moten and Harney want, what black people, indigenous people, queers, and poor people want, what we, the we who cohabit in the space of the undercommons want, it is this. We cannot be satisfied with the recognition and acknowledgement generated by the very system that denies A, that anything was ever broken, and B, that we deserve to be the broken part. So we refuse to ask for recognition, and instead we want to take apart, dismantle, tear down that structure right now. That right now limits our other to see beyond it and to access the places that we know live outside its walls. We cannot say what new structures will replace the ones we live with yet, because once we have torn stuff down, we will inevitably see more and see differently and feel a new sense of wanting and being and becoming. What we want after the break will be different from what we think we want before the break, and both are necessarily different from the desires that issue from being in the dark. Let's come at this by another path. In the melancholic and visionary 2009 film version of Maurice Sendak's Where the Wild Things Are, 1963, Max, the small seeker who leaves his room, his to find the world beyond, finds a world of lost and lonely beasts, and they promptly make him their king. Max is the first king the wild things have had, whom they did not eat, and who did not in turn try to eat them. And the beasts are the first grown things that Max has met, who want his opinion, his judgment, and his rule. Max's power is that he is small while they are big. He promises the beasts that he has no plans to eat them, and that this is more than anyone has ever promised them. He promises them that he will find ways through and around and will slip through the cracks and re-crack the cracks if they fill up. He promises to keep sadness at bay and to make the world with the wild creatures that roars and gnash their terrible teeth and roll their terrible eyes and show their terrible claws. That Max fails to make the wild things happy or to save them or to make the world with them is less important than the fact that he found them and he recognized in them the end of something and potentially the path to an alternative in his world, or an alternative to his world, excuse me. The wild things were not the utopian creatures of fairy tales. They were the rejected and lost subjects of the world Max had left behind. And because he shuttles between the rules and the ruined world of the wild, he knows the parameters of the real. He sees what is included and what is left out. And he is now able to set sail for another place, a place that is neither the home he left nor the home to which he wants to return. Moten and Harney want to gesture to another place, a wild place that is not simply the leftover space that limbs real and regulated zones of polite society. Rather, it is a wild place that continuously produces its own unregulated wilderness. The zone we enter through Moten and Harney is ongoing and exists in the present, and as Harney puts it, some kind of demand is already being enacted, fulfilled in the call itself. While describing the riots of London in 2011, Harney suggests that the riots and insurrections do not separate out the request, the demand, and the call. Rather, they enact the one in the other. Undercommons, Fugitive Planning and Black Study.
Share the Thom Hartmann program with your friends. Our podcast, The Hartmann Report, is absolutely free and available wherever fine podcasts are available. And the entire 3-hour podcast is available over at thomhartmann.com. People in the Rust Belt states know all about tariffs. They know that tariffs kept jobs in the Rust Belt states for centuries, literally, that America was built. It's one of the reasons Donald Trump got elected in 2016 was because he talked about tariffs. But for some reason right now, the Harris-Walz campaign, or Democrats in general, are reluctant to talk about tariffs they call them sales taxes or something like that. They really need to be a little more straightforward because people, particularly in the industrial Midwest, or in the Rust Belt as we call it now, are not dumb. You know, they know what's going on, they know where we've been and how we got here. And I think it's pretty important to be talking about tariffs and what they are, how they work, and how they can bring manufacturing back home. I wrote a piece about it for Hartmann Report. It's titled, Why Trump is Wrong and Alexander Hamilton Was Right About Tariffs. And I think you'll find it absolutely fascinating at hartmannreport.com. Check it out.
I see the mean men in their towers high, counting every dollar neath the blood-red sky. They say it's mine, I earned this all, but outside their gates we hear the call. We are the wheat, the workers' hands, we are the ones who till the land. But they take the fruits, they hoard the gold, the story's old, the story's told. It's me versus we, the battle we fight. They build their empires in the dead of night. But we are the people, the voices that sing for the soul of this land. We rise again.
Welcome back. 36 minutes past the hour. So it's amazing. In the first hour of the program, for those of you who are listening, you'll recall I said somebody needs to check on Ghislaine Maxwell. Jeffrey Epstein's girlfriend, right hand, whatever, acquired teenage girls and apparently maybe even preteen girls, God only knows, for his friends, allegedly like Donald Trump. And I was, because she knows everything, right? I mean, she was with him for decades. During the break, I went to Drudge Report. There's a half a dozen news sites that I hit during the breaks just to make sure that I'm keeping you up to date on what's going on. We got a monitor here in the studio too that is tuned to MSNBC or CNN. And the headline, the screaming bright red top headline on Drudge: Republicans block Ghislaine testimony. What is Trump hiding? I'm telling you. Which leads to a conspiracy theory is maybe the wrong phrase, but let's call it that for the moment, that occurred to me last night. And I posted it over on Blue Sky just to ask, what do y'all think? And got some interesting responses. You can find it on my timeline. And that is, Trump has been rushing headlong now for 6 months into police state America. He has done everything he can to purge the Republican Party of anybody who's not loyal to him. They have decapitated the senior leadership of both the Defense Department and the FBI. There's a full-on witch hunt going in both institutions, looking for people who might ever say no to Donald Trump. Loyalty is more important than competence, or even, frankly, and they're running this kind of police state thing. Yes, we can arrest you even if you're a citizen. We don't need a warrant. There's no due process. You don't get to see a judge. You don't get to make a phone call. We'll send you to allocator Auschwitz. We'll send you to Gitmo. Quack, quack, quack. Be afraid, be afraid, be afraid. And people, why is he doing this? Is it just because he wants to be a dictator? What if, and I realize this is speculative, and it's probably not the case. It probably is what it looks to be, that actually Donald Trump wants to be a dictator and thinks of himself as a dictator, thinks dictatorship is the best way to go. Of course, he's been a small businessman his whole life. Small businesses are dictatorships. Basically they're modeled, they're like old kingdoms, right? And, one person in charge, generally speaking. Even large companies generally, although at least there you've got a board of directors that can kind of moderate. But, you know, look at Elon Musk's companies. I mean, he just runs them with an iron fist. So probably that's the case. But what if Trump is turning America into a police state and emasculated the Republican Party because he knows that Epstein has video of him with, shall we say, in compromising situations. And he's trying to set the table so that when that comes out, there will be nobody who can say, okay, Donald, we are going to lead an impeachment inquiry, or we are going to even allow an impeachment inquiry. That there will be nobody in the FBI who will say, oh, it looks like, Donald, you committed felony crimes here. That there will be nobody in Congress who will stand up to him, at least no Republicans, and the Democrats, are out of power. Is this why he's trying so desperately to rig the next elections, the 2026 midterms? I don't know. What do you think?
It's an interesting question. The article says that, quote, despite the rumors, Ghislaine was never offered any kind of plea deal. She would be more than happy to sit before Congress and tell her story. No one from government has ever asked her to share what she knows. She remains the only person to be jailed in connection to Epstein, and she would welcome the chance to tell the American public the truth. Wow. Okay, I wanted to mention climate and climate science. This was my daily take a couple of days ago. It's titled, What If This Is the Last Generation That Gets to Ask What If? And this is based on, I read this piece by David Suzuki in which he's talking, we've passed the tipping points. He identified 9 tipping points, 9 thresholds. Climate change, we've gone beyond CO2 levels. Biosphere integrity, species are vanishing. Biogeochemical flows, nitrogen, phosphorus, killing agricultural systems. Land system change, forests and wetlands being raised. Freshwater use, droughts are getting deadlier. Ocean acidification, killing coral and other marine life. Novel entities, plastics, forever chemicals, synthetic toxins. The only two that are left are the ozone layer and atmospheric aerosols, and both of those are under assault now again. And he said, we're past the danger zone, we're screwed. I am not a fan of saying we're screwed. I always believe that there's hope, and I think that there's a lot of resilience in the human race. But look at what Trump has done, and the Republicans in Congress, on behalf of these fossil fuel billionaires. And this is another op-ed that I want to write, is that the children in the children down in Kerrville, Texas, were sacrificial lambs to the billionaires who run the fossil fuel industry. And, because climate change produced all that rain. Clean energy subsidies, he's revoked solar panels and heat pumps. He's ended regulations on methane emissions and offshore drilling. He cut funding to NOAA. He gutted the EPA's climate preparedness. I mean, it's wild. He eliminated 600 National Weather Service employees. That's 17% of their entire workforce. He defunded NOAA's Office of Oceanic and Atmospheric Research by 74%, which effectively eliminates all federal research on climate. He shut down the National Severe Storms Laboratory, which created the dual polarization radar, the tornado detection models, and flash flood warning systems. He eliminated NOAA's Office of Education. No more scholarships, no more training pipelines, no internships for future meteorologists or climate scientists. The knowledge chain ends here. He discontinued the $1 billion weather and climate disasters database. Basically, any information that would prove that climate change is real and that the fossil fuel industry has been lying to us for 50, 60 years is now gone. That's what Trump and the Republicans, every single one of them. Every single one of them. And here we are. So anyhow, end of rant. What's on your mind? Kenyatta in Los Angeles. Hey, Kenyatta, what's up?
Welcome back to the captain's chair, Sensei.
Thank you very kindly. Nice to hear your voice again.
I've got a couple of, I'm glad to get over my 2-week withdrawal hear you on the air. So let me cut to the chase here. You spoke about a number of things, so if you'll allow me a couple of anecdotes. I've been talking about the advent of World War III, as you know, now for probably a couple of years.
Yeah, and occasionally you even reference it in your newsletter over on Substack that people can find by going to Substack and plugging in Kenyatta.
And it's been a slow burn, but there are commonalities. There's less than a day's drive between where World War I started and Poland, where World War II started. If you want to make the argument that Putin and Ukraine is the catalyst for World War III, you have after that is the trade war, and now we have warm wars, not necessarily hot, all over the globe. We have the same pattern, less than a day's drive away from where World War I and World War II started.
Yep.
I wanted to let your listeners know that drones are not just aerial vehicles. There are also boats or naval vehicles that are drones.
Yeah, this is how Ukraine took out the Russian fleet at Simferopol.
Absolutely, and the Chinese are pouring a whole lot of money into this.
Yep.
So those are my two anecdotes. Now, things. I don't mean to offend anyone, but I look at life through the lens of who I am. I'm a black man in the United States, a very unique existence. The only people that regularly get killed by the police. Tatiana Jefferson, Tamir Rice, George Floyd. We hear it over and over again. And so when you were talking earlier about Rosie O'Donnell and Trump threatening to take her citizenship, as a citizenless citizen in the United States, it's always been weird to me that deportation and disappearances by this vet by ICE, black people have been disappeared in this country for 400 years, all the time. Tamir Rice was disappeared permanently.
Yeah.
We come up missing. And what I don't understand is there doesn't seem to be the same national outrage when it comes to us. We get I think the caller, his veteran, said something about his window being smashed. And our windows get smashed all the time by the police.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to point that out. And lastly, and most provocatively, to qualify, we talk about people coming to the United States, whether it be from Afghanistan or Latin America or whatever, for political asylum. To qualify for political asylum in the United States, the applicant must prove that they have suffered past persecution or have a well-founded fear of future persecution in their home country. The persecution must be based on one of the five protected grounds: race, religion, nationality, political opinion, or membership in a particular social group. I don't know who fits that better than black people. Do you?
I don't. Excellent point, Kenyatta. You're right on top of it, as always. It's great to hear your voice again, and thanks for the call.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, good talking to you. 48 minutes past the hour. I'll be back with more of your calls in just a moment. Stay tuned. Stay tuned.
You're listening to Thom Hartmann. Visit ThomHartmann.com for audio and video archives.
Taking back the mainstream media 3 week right here. I'll be right back. And welcome back. Rudy in Atlanta. Hey, Rudy, what's on your mind today?
Welcome back, Tom.
Thank you, Rudy. Nice to hear your voice.
Hey, man, I'm not going anywhere. Hey, unless Mother Nature. Hey, Tom, lawn service went out I can on the weekend when I get out of the truck.
Mm-hmm.
But I was coming home one night out of Florida, and it was a series of rain. I think it lasted for about an hour, hour and a half. Tom, I've been driving 30 years. I've never seen rain come down so hard in an hour and a half in my life. I mean, I'm talking about 20 feet in front of me.
Yeah, what we used to call in Georgia
anything.
frog stranglers.
Right, Tom. And this has been happening. This has happened about 3 or 4 times now this summer.
Mm-hmm.
I don't see flies as much. Gnats. I think I have to clean my windshield on my truck probably once or twice in a week.
Wow. Yeah, the bugs are dying. The birds are dying.
Yes,
and we got these rivers of
Nature.
water in the atmosphere now.
Yes. Mother Nature.
Yeah.
Mother Nature, Tom, I think she's gonna have a word before we do what we do.
Yeah, nature bats last, is the old saying.
Nah, I think Mother Nature's going to do her thing.
Yeah, she gets the final
feel
word.
It scares me. It scares the heck out of me, Tom. It scares me because I have grandkids and I like to take my grandkid out and we like to cut the grass and do all that stuff. And it's sad, Tom. But welcome back. And Kenyatta, he's something else as usual.
He's brilliant.
Have a good day, Tom.
Man's a genius.
Yeah.
Rudy, great to hear from you. Thank you so much. Appreciate the call. Devon in Pittsburgh. Hey, Devon, what's on your mind today?
Hi, Tom. Well, nothing quite as sage as your last 2 callers. Let's hear it for the black people in America. Let's hear it for black women who have tried to save our patooties. Okay, so I'm calling about 2 important events. One is it begins this Wednesday, and it's promoted by Mobilize Us in Rising, strategic non-cooperation to fight authoritarianism. It starts at 8 p.m. Eastern Time and runs until 9:30, and it'll be every Wednesday over the next, I think, 6 weeks. So, unfortunately, I had shared this on Facebook and it disappeared. So you got to Google 1 Million Rising, strategic non-cooperation, and then you'll get to the page where you can register and be on this Zoom call or however they're going to coordinate it. But they seem to really have it going on. We're launching the 1 million national effort to train 1 million people in the strategic logic and practice of non-cooperation, as well as the basics of community organizing and campaign design. It's free, people. Check it out. The other thing that's happening that's disappearing, even though I posted it, is a general strike that's been called for August 9th. And that's a general strike. So you don't buy gas, you don't buy groceries, you don't go to work, you don't spend any money, you don't patronize that's part of, the system. You just get yourself out and free.
And that's for what date?
August 9th.
August 9th. Okay.
Yep.
Good stuff,
and
Devon.
I believe that's so. All right, we'll see you on the flip side, right?
Okay, indeed. Thank you very much.
Great.
We'll be right back. Stay tuned. Our daily song is now available on Spotify, Apple Music, Amazon Music, YouTube Music, Pandora, Tidal, Deezer, iHeartRadio, and a whole bunch of other platforms. Just look for songs by Louise and Thom Hartmann. Check it out. I remember my dad's Republican Party, the Republican Party of Dwight Eisenhower. Dwight Eisenhower, who ran on advocacy for democracy around the world, for a clean environment, for honest wages, for unions, for building infrastructure, for government balanced spending, for peace in the world. This is from his 1956 campaign.
Eisenhower knows how to deal with the Russians. He has met Europe's leaders, has got them working with us. Elect the #1 man for the #1 job of our time. November 4th, vote for peace. Vote for Eisenhower.
Right. Vote for peace. And now the Republicans are the party of, military boondoggles and corruption and hate and anti-union and everything, the opposite of everything Eisenhower stood for. Will the Republican Party survive this? What are they going to come back as? There's a whole op-ed about this titled Goodbye Liz Cheney over at HartmannReport.com. Check it out.
He said just day one, but we knew the score. Now he's sending troops to settle old score. From LA streets to the Capitol's dome, he's in this land feel less like home. He's a dictator with a Maga crown, turning our freedoms upside down. Laughs off the laws, says it's just a game, but democracy's torch is losing its flame.
Welcome back, 55 minutes past the hour. Holly in Marshall, Missouri. Hey, Holly, what's up?
Oh, welcome home.
Thank you.
Nice you look wonderful, by the way. I had 2 quick points. Well, I'll get Superman over first. I'm 83 years old, and I've been watching Superman and Batman and James Bond for many, many, many years, and they all fought off people like Trump. And Superman's actual, even in the 50s, there was a Superman show, and his he stood for truth, justice, and the American way.
Exactly.
And the other thing is, this is a little bit more upsetting, is I heard on the radio this morning that Stephen Miller has told the ICE agents must arrest 3,000 people a day.
Right.
3,000 people a day.
This is why they're revoking
So
people's green cards and their permission to be here and their asylum applications and everything else, and arresting them in courthouses. It's the low-hanging fruit.
Well, I live in a little farm community, and at the library the other day, it was jammed with Latin people trying to get copies of their passports and any kind of papers they had.
Mm-hmm.
And that's home.
Yeah, well, that's enough, Holly. I think we're seeing these stories repeated all over the country that this is the end of an era. Hopefully we can reverse this, but we still have 3.5 years of this crap left. So, Holly, thanks so much for the call. It's nice to hear your voice again. And we'll be back on the other side of this break here at the top of the hour. Is delusion the right's new weapon of mass destruction? I'll tell you about that right after this.
You're listening to Thom Hartmann.
In addition to bringing you the Thom Hartmann program here on Free Speech TV and Video Media Online, we also have a whole set of ways you can interact with us and tools you can use to spread the word about the importance of democracy and the threats to it in our republic. First, there's your daily homework. Sue Nethercutt puts together a daily email newsletter that has a link to every story I discuss on the air, so you can find my sources and you can share them with your friends. It's free and you can sign up at thomhartmann.com. Second, I publish my daily take every day over at the hartmannreport.com website. That's also free if you want the daily 5 days a week rant in your inbox, no ads either. Third, we have the podcasts. There's the free 1-hour version of our daily show that's advertising supported. You can find that wherever you get your podcasts normally. And then there's also the podcast of the entire 3-hour show with no advertisements, and that's available by subscription over at thomhartmann.com. So check them all out at thomhartmann.com and hartmannreport.com.
We say fight back!
Our book for the Thom Hartmann Book Club today is A Nation Forged by Crisis, A New American History by Jay Sexton. And I'm reading from the introduction. This is page 9. The quest for national security and global power, America's shifting position in the international economy, and fluctuations in immigration have made the United States the nation that it is today. Americans' foreign relations have been conditioned its history not only in their cumulative effects over the long haul, but also as a result of their volatility. In periods of crisis, America's position in the world has lurched in unexpected directions. For as inexorable as the rise of the United States appears in retrospect, there have been contingent moments in which the very existence of our nation was the essence of crisis. The world turned upside down, the known replaced by the unknown, panic reigning as people struggled to maintain their balance and shifts in the very ground beneath their feet. It came with a speed and ferocity that left men dazed, New York Times correspondent Elliot Bell wrote of Wall Street's catastrophic collapse in October of 1929. Quote, the market seemed like an insensate thing that was wreaking a wild and pitiless revenge upon those who thought to master it, end quote. Crises are contagious, spreading like viruses from one realm to another. It's not without reason that the word crisis was associated with medical conditions and health scares in the 19th century. Each of the periods under consideration in this book were less a singular crisis than a set of interlinked crises. A political crisis could trigger an economic panic, which in turn could intensify social conflict, and so on. As these pandemics spread through the body politic, crisis itself was normalized, becoming an almost accepted characteristic of an age. Just as foreign crises have spread to the United States, domestic ones have spilled in foreign countries and peoples, as well as reconfiguring America's connections to the world. Consider the fateful winter of secession that followed the 1860 election of Abraham Lincoln. Crisis over slavery that divided the Union into warring sections that led to a series of sharp reversals in America's position in the global system. The foreign capital that had rushed into the roaring American economy in the preceding decades suddenly began to flee. Indeed, more capital left 1860 to 1862 than came into it. Also a once-in-a-century occurrence. One of the world's most valuable commodities and America's largest export, Southern cotton, was confined to the ports of the Confederacy as a result of Richmond's ill-fated diplomatic strategy, leading to unemployment and social unrest in the British textile town of Lancashire. The most unexpected reversal was how the national security that the United States had attained after the war against Mexico in the 1840s was suddenly imperiled, with European powers encroaching once again upon the Western Hemisphere. Meanwhile, the Confederate emissaries across the Atlantic were in search of alliance with Britain. Our country, Secretary of State William Seward lamented in early 1861, after having expelled all European powers from the continent, now threatened to relapse into an aggravated form of its colonial experience, and like India, Turkey, China, and Italy, become the theater of transatlantic intervention and rapacity. A wider view of American history that looks beyond the nation's borders brings into focus not only the migration patterns, economic flows, and international rivalries that have connected the United States to the world, but also those rare moments in which the very existence of the nation was in question. Perhaps none was more pregnant with implications than the autumn of 1877, when the fate of the Patriots hung in the balance. Having proclaimed their independence to the world the previous 4th of July, their cause had stalled on the battlefield and in the diplomatic courts of the old world. I think the game has been privately confessed at year's end. To accomplish their independence is not quite so easy as to declare it, the British philosopher Jeremy Bentham haughtily remarked. But then a series of events forever changed the course of modern history. The stunning Patriot victory at the Battle of Saratoga in October, the drafting of the Articles of Confederation in November that, for all its limitations, further demonstrated the political resolve of the Americans. And most of all, the alliance signed with France in February 1770 provided the Patriots with the resources, military assistance, and naval power that ultimately tipped the scales in their favor. There are comparable Saratoga moments in other crises in U.S. history, as we shall see. These contingent moments played out in their own distinctive ways, but are joined by a common denominator that has been curiously forgotten in our age of U.S. global power. Foreign states and people have played decisive roles in the critical moments of American history. as we make our way through our own era of global instability. In an unprecedentedly interconnected world, there's perhaps no more important lesson from the past to keep in mind. Crisis may beget crisis, Franklin Roosevelt said, as his administration transitioned from battling the Great Depression to entering the Second World War. But the progress underneath does not wholly halt. It does go forward, end quote. Like so many of Roosevelt's public statements, this one reveals a truth even as it conceals others. The United States came out on the other side of its greatest crises as a stronger and more efficiently organized nation, as Roosevelt suggested. The process of mobilizing resources to counter threats catalyzed innovations in political economy, such as the creation of a national financial system during the Civil War, and the economic reforms of the New Deal. The book is A Nation Forged by Crisis by Jay Sexton.
This is the Thom Hartmann Program.
Welcome to the third hour of our program, and there's a lot to talk about. You know, it's an awful lot to talk about. I mentioned at the opening of the program, or no, at the top of the second hour, you know, I got into my daily take for today about these, you know, three conditions that are converging and basically could lead to World War III. You know, one being the neo-fascist political shift in the United States. This is the second, which is driving the first, is the immiseration of the middle class, the damage that Donald Trump with his tariffs and his tax cuts is doing to the economy, and how it's making rich people richer and all the rest of us poorer. And then the third, of course, is the number two guy at the Department of Defense, Mr. Colby, Elbridge Colby, reaching out to Japan and Australia and demanding to know if they're prepared to fight against China in a world war over Taiwan. And world war, my phrase, not his, but you get it. And you know, all of this was this kind of Dutch disease article that I read in the Financial Times talking about how the economy sucks. And, you know, I mentioned in the last hour that during the break, I went to, you know, I look at the tabs I have open, you know, Daily Kos, Raw Story, Democratic Underground, Blue Sky, Common Dreams, Drudge Report, New Republic, The Guardian, the New York Times, and the Financial Times. Those are the news tabs that I just kind of cycle through during every break, and just to see what's going on in the world. Plus, you know, keeping a monitor on in the studio here on TV. But so I, you know, I was clicking through them, and I clicked on Drudge Report. On Drudge Report, three headlines that, again, just to amplify my daily take from the second hour, and then I'll get into my third hour stuff here in just a second. And I'll just share these three headlines with you. These summarize the argument that I was making, which is that Trump and the Republicans, with their so-called big, beautiful bill, basically just stole $4 trillion from you and me, gave it to billionaires, and to pay for it, they are gutting, you know, Medicare, Medicaid. They've already laid off 7,000 or 10,000 people from Social Security. It's reached the point now where people trying to get answers in Social Security are just going nuts, which of course is what they want. They want people to be so pissed off at Social Security that they will say, "Hey, yes, give it to Jamie Dimon. Let J.P. Morgan run the program." You know, in other words, privatize it. Republicans have been pushing this since 1935. So anyhow, my argument that the economy is falling apart because of these Republican policies, and specifically because of this legislation that they just passed, which is going to cause a serious recession. Mark my words. Here are the three headlines from Drudge. And keep in mind, they just killed or largely killed the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, which is an anti-fraud agency that has recovered
literally tens of billions of dollars and given that money back to consumers on behalf of consumers. They were the ones who busted Wells Fargo, for example, for ripping people off with, you just get these sudden fees. What's this? Why? And you call them up and, oh, sorry, you're stuck with it, So anyhow, here's the three headlines. The first one is, rip off America? From car rentals to coffee, inflation is rampant. The second headline, food banks running out exactly when more people need them. And the third headline, store closings on pace for new record. That, of course, would be small businesses, because they're being just wiped out by Republican economic policy. 10 of the last 11 recessions began during Republican presidencies. Republicans love recessions. They want the economy to go into the tank. People go, well, why? Aren't they invested in the stock market? Aren't they, don't rich people? Why would they want a recession? Why would they want the market to crash? Well, yeah, they want the market to crash because when the market goes down, it doesn't hurt them, frankly. When the market goes down, what it does is it creates an opportunity for them to buy stock cheap, because the market will go back up. Democrats will come back into power and they'll put the economy back together. Reagan had the most severe drop in the Dow Jones Industrial during the Reagan administration. Ronald Reagan had the worst drop in the Dow since Black Friday or Black Tuesday, 1929. Those of you old enough to remember know what I'm talking about. And 16% inflation, or 16% interest rates, rather. We bought a house in Atlanta at 16% in the 1980s during the Reagan years. George W. Bush, massive tax break, deregulated the banks. Actually, that was Phil Gramm. Bill Clinton signed the legislation, but it was Republicans in 1999. And George Bush used that to deregulate the banks. And what happened? The banks stole our homes. I mean, Steve Mnuchin himself was alleged to have had tens of thousands of illegally robo-signed eviction notices. They stole millions of people's homes from them. Generally these banksters. Not a single one went to jail under the George W. Bush administration. And he created such a mess that Barack Obama had to come in and clean it up. And then Donald Trump comes into office and creates such a mess that Joe Biden had to come in and clean it up. Again, under Trump, you had a crash in the stock market that was even worse than the one under Reagan. And Biden brought back the best economy literally in the world. Trump, this morning on TV, as he always does, was lying about Biden and his economy and what he did. And, Ukraine is Biden's war and all this kind of BS. But the simple fact of the matter is, Republicans always try to ruin the economy because it works for billionaires. Gloria Swanson was an old friend of mine. She was on the board of directors or the board of advisors of the Community for Abused Kids that Louise and I started in New Hampshire back in 1978. And I used to go to New York every couple months. She was helping connect me to wealthy people to raise money for our program. We had lunch with Mary Rockefeller once, for example, and she wrote a $5,000 check for our charity, which was very sweet of her. I mean, on Gloria's suggestion. Gloria Swanson had been a vegetarian since the 30s, and so together we would cook these meals in her apartment. And she would just tell me these wild stories, and she hated Joe Kennedy. I mean, he had been her lover for a while, and then he managed her money, and he basically robbed her blind. And she said that he told her that the Depression was coming, and during the Great Depression, he bought stock like there was no tomorrow, and he came out of that smelling like a rose. He came out of it so much richer than when he went in. So here we are. So what are the Republicans up to now? What's their latest scam? Well, it has to do with Medicare. And this is the Center for Medicare Services, CMS, under Trump, and this is Rachel Madley writing over at healthcareuncovered.substack.com. And I'll just I'll just share this with you. Just before the holiday, that was the 4th of July holiday, the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services announced a new model to test the expansion of prior authorization in traditional Medicare. Now you say, wait a minute, what's prior authorization? Well, if you're on Medicare Advantage, you know what it is. You've got to beg your insurance company to pay for the CAT scan or the MRI or even the prescription or even sometimes the doctor's visit before you get it. And if they say, no, we won't pay for it, you don't get it. That's called prior authorization. If you're on real Medicare, you've probably never heard of prior authorization, because on real Medicare, you just go out and get what you need. And if Medicare thinks it's fraudulent, they'll investigate it, but you don't get nailed. The fraudster do, if there is fraud. 99.999% of the time there isn't. So anyhow, they say this, and they want to hire private companies to do the prior authorization on behalf of real Medicare. So those of us like me, real Medicare, thank God, are like, I don't have to worry about prior authorization. Well, Trump wants you to. They say it will, quote, implement and streamline prior authorizations to ensure that select services that are provided and paid for. Right. Who gets to decide that? Well, they're going to hire companies like United Healthcare to do the prior authorization for Medicare. And even worse, again, quoting from the article, even worse, the private companies participating in the model will be paid, and this is from the press release from CMS, quote, based on a share of averted expenditures, end quote. In other words, they make a commission every time they tell you no, or tell your doctor, no, we will not pay for that person's MRI. No, we will not pay for that CAT scan. No, we will not pay for that ultrasound. No, we will not pay for that pharmaceutical. No, we will not pay for that surgery. No, we will not pay for that cancer test. Every time they say that on behalf of real Medicare, which is going to hire them under this plan, they get a fee. They get paid every time you get screwed. Now, again, if you're on Medicare Advantage and you've ever gotten seriously sick, you know this is exactly how Medicare Advantage works. But this is not how real Medicare works. But they want to make it that way. It's called the WISER, and it's an acronym for Wasteful and Inappropriate Services Reduction. In other words, your doctor prescribing, saying, hey, my patient here thinks, I think my patient should have a CAT scan. Let's see if, or a mammogram. Let's see if there's some cancer there. And the big insurance company that real Medicare is going to hire to investigate whether your doctor is right or not. And by the way, they're using AI to do this now. Some of them will make a commission for saying no, screw them. It's incredible. And then on top of this, they want to make Medicare Advantage even worse. I'll tell you about that after the break, and I'll pick up your calls. It's just what these Republicans are up to continuously is just mind-boggling. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
This is the Thom Hartmann Program.
Occupying the media 3 hours a day, 5 days a week. I'll be right back with you. And welcome back. Tim in Aloha, Oregon. Hey, Tim, what's on your mind today?
Well, a lot of things are on my mind, but I'll try to make it as brief as possible. This whole Epstein thing.
Yeah.
This is amazing. There's absolutely no way that guy committed suicide. I'll guarantee you, when his lawyer was available to him, he went in there and he said, look, you're screwed. They've got a lot of stuff. And he said, well, I've got a lot of stuff on a lot of important people. So they said, well, let's work something out. And once they finally did, then his lawyers told the Republican hierarchy. I think I've got all the information I need, and they said get rid of him. You know,
I believe you're right, Tim.
Erdogan and Putin, Erdogan, and Kim Jong-un, the rest of them. Look what they do to the people who are competitive, or trying to interfere with their.
And then Pam Bondi comes out and says, "Here's the footage. Here's the footage from the camera in the prison. Oops, there's a gap in it.
Yeah.
Gee, I wonder why." And then they release it saying it's the raw footage, and people look at it and go, "The metadata says it's been edited with Adobe."
Yeah, it's amazing. It's just like Getz and his buddy that was thrown in jail in Florida for the child sex trafficking for 11 years.
Yeah,
they probably got a hold. He said, "Look, I've got a lot of information that I can put on people too." And they said, "You stay in prison right now." Because you're in Florida, you'll probably get out, early if you're a decent person. And when you're out, you'll never have to worry about another economic thing the rest of your life. Those are the games that they're playing.
Well, the other thing is, the thing that I want to know about, Alex Acosta, who was Trump's labor secretary last time around, was the guy who got Epstein the sweetheart deal where he got sentenced to prison for child sex trafficking. But during the day, he just had to sleep in prison every night, right? He was out all day long, porking young girls again, probably, in all probability. So there's that. And then Pam Bondi was the Attorney General. Now, I'm not certain that she was the Attorney General during his prosecution, but she certainly was the Attorney General for Florida for years thereafter, and she could have looked into this at any time she wanted. Because he's in a Florida prison.
You live in a vacuum to understand what's going on, This is common sense,
Yeah.
And unfortunately, with the literacy rate disintegrating in this country, I have a good historical background. I was in sales and marketing for most of my career. I dealt with every age, income, and educational level. I try to talk to history about the kids in my neighborhood. I've seen 2 generations grow up. They don't understand why he's taking a dramatic beating in this country.
Well,
this is terrible.
This goes back to when Bill Bennett, the guy who wrote the Little Book of Virtues, who was a compulsive gambler and whose most famous saying was, "If you want to reduce crime in America, simply abort every black baby." He was, when Ronald Reagan made him Secretary of Education, his big thing was, let's cut the education budget by 18%, which they did in the first year, and the largest part of that was the funding for local elementary and high schools to teach civics. I mean, we had comprehensive, thorough. I grew up in the 1950s and 60s. I was born in '51, and we had comprehensive civics education in the schools that I went to, and they were not fancy schools. I mean, they were nice new schools, but it wasn't private prep school or anything. That's gone. I mean, the Republicans killed it.
I had to remember.
Now they want to ban the damn books. Pardon me.
I had to remember the preamble of the Constitution to do it in my 5th grade class. You know how proud I was? I still remember that.
There you go.
I can repeat it to you now.
Same here. 4th and 5th grade, we had to memorize the preamble. We had to memorize the Gettysburg Address. We had to know what the 3 branches of government were. We had, I'm with you. Tim, we're sounding like a couple of old farts here. I probably shouldn't do that, but thank you so much for the call. I appreciate it. It's 22 and a half minutes past the hour. Stay with us. Missed my opening rant today? It's usually published over at HartmannReport.com, where you can read it and share it with your friends for free. Check it out, HartmannReport.com. America is suffering from an epidemic of bullying. And one of the things we know is that culture, including bullying, flows from the top down. Studies where when issues of, for example, being gay or transgender are being debated in the public, gay and transgender kids in school are more likely to be bullied. When racial issues are being discussed, people of minority races are more likely to be bullied. Well, now we've got a man who has literally built his career on being a bully, Donald Trump, as president, or was president, as candidate. And he is driving this bullying campaign and using it as a political weapon across the United States. And it's contagious. It's dangerous. There's an entire article about it over at HartmannReport.com titled "America's New Epidemic, a Nation Overrun by Bullies." Check it out.
It starts with a whisper, a poison in the well. They call their foes traitors, say the free press fell. The strong man rises cloaked in the law, writing new orders, erasing what we saw. Courts are packed, the truth's on trial. Votes are stolen with a gerrymandered smile. An iron fist dressed up as decree, selling fear as security. It's not a march, it's a slide, every step justified. By the time you see the bars, you're trapped inside. Autocratic breakthrough, the glass is shattered now. We let them take it step by step and never ask them how. Autocratic breakthrough, the sirens fade away. Freedom bleeds in silence when the people look away.
Welcome back, 25 minutes past the hour. So have you heard about the Medicare Advantage Reform Act? This is an amazing piece of legislation sponsored by Congressman David Schweikert. He's a Republican from Arizona. And basically what it does is it forces everyone, when you become eligible for Medicare, onto Medicare Advantage for the first 3 years. And of course, if you've had Medicare Advantage for more than 12 months, it's damn near impossible to get back on real Medicare. Certainly the insurance companies that sell the Medigap plans are no longer required after 12 months to give you a Medigap plan at a fixed price. They can jack the price up. They can do what's called risk management or whatever, where they can look at your medical history and say, oh, you've got diabetes. We're going to charge you more every month. So it's called HR 3467, if you want to look it up. House Resolution 3467, also known as the Medicare Advantage Reform Act. It would help Medicare Advantage insurers rob Americans of choice and funnel more taxpayer dollars through the Wall Street-owned Medicare Advantage. It automatically enrolls you into a Medicare Advantage plan starting in 2028, 3 years. If you qualify for Medicare Part A and B and you enroll in Part B, you will be shunted straight into the lowest cost Medicare Advantage plan in your area. You have no choice, and you are locked into it for 1,095 days, 3 years. Aren't these people wonderful? I wonder how much Mr. Congressman Schweikert was paid by the health insurance industry for that one.
You're listening to the Thom Hartmann Program. Call 202-808-9924.
Member of Congress, and just put this on their radar screen if they're not already aware of it. The Medicare Advantage Reform Act.
Our book today in the Thom Hartmann Book Club is The Black Panthers, Portraits from an Unfinished Revolution, edited by Briasha and Yohuro Williams. This is from Chapter 1, In Defense of Self-Defense, Pathways to the Black Panther Party. People joined the Black Panther Party for many different reasons. The moment of politicization was different for everyone, but a few, including the 1963 bombing of the 16th Street Baptist Church in Birmingham, Alabama, and the 1965 Watts Urban Rebellion. A more general sense of frustration and alienation compelled others to join the Panthers' ranks. The party exerted an enormous pull on the imagination of the members, especially those who had experienced police brutality. In the rebellious spirit of the times, the party's bold stance on self-defense resonated with those seeking fresh alternatives for achieving social justice and black liberation. Party members expressed a deep appreciation for other aspects of the Panthers program, including its community service programs, which grew out of a genuine love for the people. My neighborhood friend, a sister that I've known since I was about 11 years old, said, Claudia, I want you to go with me. We're going to go and hear these Panthers speak at PS 92, which was an elementary school in our community. I said, okay, I'll go, I'm down. I listened to these brothers speak and I heard the pitch. I saw the determination and I saw the compassion. I thought, wow, this is the feeling that I used to get when I went into clubs and popped my fingers and got on the dance floor. It was the same feeling, except it was bigger for me now. It was bigger than me. It was full of love of the people. No longer did we have to argue and fight about, what are you looking at me like that for? Or don't step on my sneaker, or this is my block. Now we really had something to fight for. We had a people to fight for. This is bigger than any gang or club. We had a goal. We had something to look forward to, which was the betterment of black people. It was most definitely something that I was searching for, but I didn't yet know what that I was searching. I didn't find it. It fell on me. That was the first meeting. That's what actually started the wheels in my mind for me to become political. I was rank and file. I did a lot of things. The easiest way to say it is just to imagine worker bees. You got one queen, everyone else works. Rank and file. Those were the worker bees. We did it all. The one thing I enjoyed the most was teaching the political education classes on 7th Avenue in front of the Harlem office. That was the most fruitful. But anything I did, it was for the love of the people. Wherever I was sent, or whatever I had to do, it didn't matter anymore because it was for the love of the people. We were trying to get the word out. If I had to sell 125 papers in a day and I got close to that goal, then I did a good job. I was originally from Queens and came out of the Corona branch of the Black Panther Party. When the Panther 21 were arrested and went to jail, in order to keep those offices open and functioning, Panthers were sent all over the city to Harlem. I was one of the Panthers that ended up in the Harlem branch. That's how I got to be there on Wednesday nights to give the PE classes, the political. I was extremely nervous the first time, but once I found my voice, then it went like clockwork. A lot of the people in the community who were just walking by were like, well, let me stop and see what this little girl is talking about, because I was indeed a little girl at that time. We started off every PE class with a 10-point program, and we ended every PE class with, okay, let me hear from you guys. What do you want to see different in your community? And how are you living? Then we would get the feedback, and then we would know how to concentrate our efforts. Rent strikes were crazy, because if you had to live like that, why should you pay rent? We did clothing drives. We did food drives. We did, of course, the breakfast program. There were a lot of other things that happened, and they might have been more meaningful, but those PE classes stayed with me. We were outside on the street in front of the office. When you were giving a class or you were having a talk inside the office and there were only Panthers around you, the feeling was just different than outside on the street. The Panthers knew what you were doing because they were Panthers and they were doing the same thing. Outside, there were constant questions and answers with the people. You had to give yourself up when you were outside in that crowd. You never knew who was going to say, we don't care about that, we don't care about you, you need to go away. There were a lot of people that just did not know where we were coming from and were afraid that if they were seen in the office or if they were seen asking questions, that they'd get reprisals, that they'd end up getting hurt. They were afraid. Things went so fast. Time seems to accelerate when you're always looking over your shoulder. At this time, it was all-out war against the Panthers, and brothers are being shot down in the street or set up or going to jail for years. We have brothers in jail since that time, 40, 41 years. We've had brothers that we've lost on the inside that we can't let the world forget. The government said, okay, we're going to lock them up and throw away the key and no one will ever care. But it's not true. We want them out. We want freedom for all political prisoners. We don't want any more of them to die on the inside. That's the biggest injustice. There were times when our cadre can women, and that was when the brothers were locked up or had to go underground. I remember being on a front line against a policeman on horseback, pregnant. What we wanted was a simple street light, and we got the community out there and we blocked traffic. I didn't know whether I was going to be trampled, my baby killed, but I knew I had to be there. I was an active member of the party from 1968 to 1971, and in those few years, I aged 10, 15 years. We didn't have much time to be little girls. We went straight to womanhood. Talking about these things is bringing up all of these feelings, though I hadn't thought about or touched on them for a long time. It seems that as you get older and you look back on the things that you've done in your life, you say, oh my God, I could have gotten killed then. When you're young, fear is not really in your vocabulary, and once you look back, you wonder, why wasn't I afraid? We didn't have much time to be afraid. It was all about survival. The Black Panthers. Our daily song is now available on Spotify, Apple Music, Amazon Music, YouTube Music, Pandora, Tidal, Deezer, iHeartRadio, and a whole bunch of other platforms. Just look for songs by Louise and Thom Hartmann. Check it out.
When Ronald Reagan took over America in 1981, we handed him a brand gleaming new country. Franklin Roosevelt, Harry Truman, Dwight Eisenhower, Jack Kennedy, they had built America. We had brand new schools, brand new hospitals, brand new interstate highway systems, brand new airports, infrastructure. We were the envy of the world. And then Republicans came along and they said, well, you just cut the top tax rate from 74% down to 27% and everything will trickle down. Instead, what do we get? Billionaires and poverty. They said, hey, just deregulate guns and an armed society is a polite society. Instead, we've got more school shootings than anywhere in the world. Just kill off civics and history classes in our schools and liberate our young people to focus on science and math. Now we've got people who don't know how our government works. I mean, it just goes on from there. There's a whole rant about it over at HartmannReport.com titled FDR Saved America, Then the GOP Ripped Us Apart. Check it out.
The crown came down in silence. Not a shot or scream was heard. No breaking news, no marching boots, just a line buried in a word. 3 branches turned to tinder, and the match was struck with stealth, while billionaires bought silence and democracy was shelved. This is the final checkmate. The king stands all alone. No court, no law, no balance left, just marble turned to stone. They sold the soul of justice for a tax cut and a throne. This is the final checkmate, and the tyrant's taken home. The judges cry contempt, but the gavel hits the air. No chains, no jail, no justice left, just darkness draped in care. The House has bowed and yielded, the Senate sealed its fate, while freedom's ghost walks restless through a rusting White House gate. Raise your voice or raise your chains. History forgets the tame. This is not some distant war. It's right here at our door. This is the final checkmate, where silence is the crime. The Constitution bleeding ink, erased in real time. They crown the man who mocks the law and strip the courts of might. This is the final checkmate. Now stand or lose the fight.
June 17th is the date. We're going to show up in the streets. That's Thursday of this week, so just mark that on your calendar and get your signs ready. So what's on your mind here? John in Minneapolis. Hey, John, what's up?
I just wanted to, ask you, why Maga is so interested in the Epstein files. It just seems so out of character.
Because they think Bill Clinton's in them. No, I'm serious. They think it's Bill Clinton and Bill Gates and all these, all these guys that they are convinced are the deep state that controls the world and all that kind of stuff. And I honestly think, John, that Fox News and the right-wing information bubble has been so effective at keeping these guys ignorant that most of them had no idea that Trump is all over those things. And they're just now discovering it.
It's interesting, but I had watched the biopic that was released just before the election, and Trump was desperately trying to keep that, out of the.
John, you just vanished.
Either.
Oh, you're back.
Oh,
okay.
I'm sorry.
It's okay. Your phone is flaky, but go ahead.
Yeah. And so I just thought it was, so interesting. Actually, Rupert Murdoch knew Donald Trump. He used to hang out at the club with the other creepy people, the mafia, and other people like that.
Yeah, you wonder if Roger Ailes was a friend of Jeffrey Epstein's too. He certainly was, sexually predatory enough.
It's beyond the pale that these things were not discussed in detail by the news, and all of the other things that have come out.
Or by the Democrats. I mean, where were the Kamala Harris ads pounding on Trump for being Epstein's best bud? Epstein.
Hey, we need to double down on it now. Anything that irritates Donald is something you need to double down on until his head bursts.
Oh, and he is twisting in the wind right now. He is, why are you talking about this? It's not, it's old, it's now, yeah. John, excellent point. Thank you so much. Great to hear your voice again, and thanks for the call. Bill in Clifton, New Jersey. Hey, Bill, how's my favorite conservative doing today? What's up?
Yeah. Hi, Tom. Before I ask my question, I've had this burning question. Do you think ICE agents should be required to wear Hello Kitty T-shirts when they go out?
No, but I do think that any law enforcement officer in the United States, I realize there may be a few exceptions to this, and most of them probably have to do with things like undercover work. But by and large, any law enforcement officer in the United States should identify themselves as such and should be identifiable. There's this thing called accountability in the United States, and I don't think that people should be arrested without warrants. I actually read the Fourth Amendment of the Constitution. What say you?
But Tom, we have the government has 3 new revenue streams now. We have the tariff money coming in. We have the money from firing people. We have the money from canceling contracts and paying grants and things like that. Where is it all going to? And with the tariffs, why don't they post the amount of money that the government has in our tariff money? Why don't they post that's where the money goes?
Yeah, okay. Let's talk of each one of those 3 bins. With regard to the tariffs, one of the problems is that when Trump started imposing tariffs, we used to have a large infrastructure of, tariff collectors, essentially, the people associated with the Department of Commerce and the IRS who collected this money. They don't exist anymore, by and large. And so an awful lot, in the early months, an awful lot of this whole tariff stuff just never actually, got collected. Number 2, because Trump's tariff, the 10, 20, 30, 40% rather than, the traditional, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6%.
Right.
Because they were so high, an awful lot of commerce simply stopped. People stopped importing. So the total revenue from the tariffs, I've seen a couple of different numbers and over the course of the last 6 months, but it appears that it's really not that much money. It's well under $100 billion, and as I recall, it might be well under $50 billion. But fact check me on that. I mean, look it up. It's probably out there someplace, but it's not a lot of money. It's a drop in the bucket. So tariffs. Number 1. Number 2, the firing people has actually cost us money. It's cost us because they're federal employees who are unionized. They have contracts, and they're entitled to severance pay, and they're entitled to benefits that last until the end of the year. And private contractors, in many cases, are being hired to do the work that they're doing. There's a great piece in the Financial Times about a month and a half ago talking about how all of the firings that Doge did ended up costing the federal government. I forget the number, but it was billions of dollars more than zero. There was no savings whatsoever from the firings. And then the third was, shutting down programs, things like USAID. USAID was, 0.2% of the federal budget. I mean, it was a meaningless amount of money. The programs that have been shut down by and large, shutting down the National Weather Service, which caused the crisis down in Texas, or it exacerbated it.
Right.
That amount of money is what the Defense Department spends in an afternoon. And so where did all this money go? It went to pay a very tiny slice of the $3.4 trillion that they just gave to the top 1% in America.
I see. Tom, can any of these laws and budget things they passed be changed when the Democrats?
Some of them, yeah. It's going to depend, A, if the Democrats take over. B, if they only get the House, then probably none of it will get changed, but the damage, they can stop the damage getting any worse. Then C, if you're looking 3 years out and we get a Democratic House, Senate, and President, then yeah, there could be a lot of work done, but it would require either the Democrats to blow up the filibuster or just blow out the Senate wins that year. So we'll see, Bill.
Get 2/3 of the Senate. That would help.
Yeah, they would have to. Did I answer your questions?
Very well, thank you.
Well, thank you very much.
One other thing?
Sure.
One other thing for the weather?
Yeah.
There's still the Farmer's Almanac is 80% correct for the Weather Bureau.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Okay,
So
I'll
they
check
should
it
pass
out.
that out.
I know they,
Yes, since
when-
1818.
Yeah, when we used to live in Vermont and New Hampshire, we swore by the Farmer's Almanac. I mean, it was shocking how often it was correct. Bill, thanks for the call.
I don't know how they do it.
Yeah, there you go. Nice to hear from you. George in Cripple Creek, Virginia. Hey, George, what's up?
Hey, welcome back, Tom. And Louise, I'm going to definitely order your new book. But a couple of things. Did you see that Holland and Norway are going to forward base some F-35 stealth fighters in Poland for 6 months as a deterrent against possible Russian aggression?
Yeah, I saw that.
And Russia is insisting on, free navigation for the ghost tankers in the Baltic Sea, the ones that are hauling their illicit oil shipments.
Yep.
And they're threatening any interference with those tankers will involve an immediate armed response.
Right, will be considered an act of war.
Exactly, right.
Yeah. Yeah, this is getting dangerous, George.
It sure is, I'll tell you. It's more like, probably the most dangerous since the Cuban Missile Crisis.
Yeah, and you're the old intelligence guy who speaks Russian and worked for the agency that can't be named. I take what you say seriously, George.
Well, I enjoy your show and definitely pass this on to Jeff. He did a great job, and I enjoyed seeing his dog George on the broadcast because I have a nearly 9-year-old dachshund, so I'm definitely a dog lover.
Great. We have 2 dogs. Yeah,
I wouldn't know what to do without her. She's my little companion.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad that a lot of people have been saying that, and I'm so glad to hear it. I mean, known him for years. He's a great guy.
Oh yeah, he does an excellent job.
Yeah. So.
And I enjoy hearing, seeing his dad. Like I told him, he's 90 years old, and I hope I'm as sharp as he is if I ever get to that age.
May we all be. May we all be.
That's right.
Yeah. George, thanks for the
keep
call.
up the good work, Tom. Nice having you back.
Thank you, and great to hear your voice again, too, George. Good talking to you. It's just about 48 minutes past the hour. I'll be back with more of your calls on the other side of this break. Stay with us.
You're listening to Thom Hartmann. Visit ThomHartmann.com for audio and video archives.
It is your meet for we the people. We'll be right back. And welcome back. And let's see here. Oops. Katie in Arthur, North Dakota. Hey, Katie, what's up?
Hi, long-time listener, first-time caller, Tom.
Well, thank you, Katie.
Yeah. I'm just taking us back to the last hour to quickly add to the conversation about people being disappeared to the United States.
Mm-hmm.
Another demographic that has been disappeared for years and years is the indigenous women.
Oh, yeah.
You can look up Missing and Murdered Indigenous Women,
Yes.
or MMIW.
Yes.
and these men have been disappeared for years and extremely rarely receive any news coverage.
And my understanding, Katie, and correct me if I'm wrong, you live in North Dakota, you're closer to it than I am, but my understanding is that because local authorities can't go onto the reservations and the reservation police are chronically underfunded, that what happens is that white people go onto the reservations, they rape, murder, kidnap, whatever these native women and girls, remove them from the reservation, and because of the jurisdictional stuff and just general white people don't give a damn, nothing ever happens. This has been a full-blown crisis, not just recently, but probably for centuries.
Yes, absolutely. And I'm not sure exactly what the reason is, but I just think more attention needs to be paid to it. We can't keep forgetting these, girls and women. So, yeah, thank you for taking my call, and have a good rest of your day.
Okay. Well, thank you very much. Nice to hear from you, Katie. I appreciate the call. Brad in Arlington, Texas. Hey, Brad, what's on your mind today?
Yeah, I know, Donald, that there's this big fluff about the gamblers not being able to deduct their losses anymore.
Yes and no. My understanding is that the way they wrote that, because the gambling houses, the casinos, make their money not so much on the professional gamblers, but on the suckers, on the people who come through.
Right.
And this was written in a way that the professional gamblers can still take their losses, but the average person can't. Now, I may have that backwards. Am I remembering it wrong?
I was under the impression that it was the professional gamblers that were protesting, and for that reason, legislation has already been introduced to repeal that part of the bill.
Okay, you may be right, Brad. I don't gamble, and I read the article happened. There was a piece about it in the Financial Times, but I may have understood it backwards.
I just want to know, why are they repealing that and not the Medicaid cuts?
Oh, well, because professional gamblers tend to be fairly wealthy people. I mean, you'd have to be a professional gambler.
Yeah, I know.
And
but
fairly wealthy people have political power in America. Average people on Medicaid, in fact, most people on Medicaid are making under $30,000 a year, have virtually no political power in America.
But does that mean that we can't introduce the bill at least and get senators to vote and go on the record about it?
Oh, Democrats have proposed multiple pieces of legislation to the Medicare cuts, and they, when in both the House and the Senate, they tried to attach amendments to undo a lot of that damage. The Republicans simply blocked every single effort, that's all. The problem is you've got Republicans in charge of the House and Senate right now. And so the Democrats, literally have no power other than the bully pulpit, other than the ability to speak. Brad, I got to run, but thanks for the call. Right back. Hey, thanks so much for sharing our program and for reaching out to our stations and sponsors and letting them know that it means a lot to us. Way back in 1964, when Lyndon Johnson signed the Civil Rights Act, the Voting Rights Act, the Republicans started this rant about how the election of 1960, Jock Kennedy stole that election, and there's voter fraud in America. And it became a thing. They started this thing called Operation Eagle Eye. William Rehnquist was running it in Arizona, trying to intimidate Hispanics and African Americans into not voting, essentially. They've that non-citizens are voting, this voter fraud claim, in virtually every red state to make it harder to vote, to purge people off the voting rolls, to make people's votes not counted with their exact signature matches. It's a scam. It's a grift that they've been running for 60 years, and the American media won't call them out on it. There's a whole piece about it called Trump and the GOP's Big Lie 2.0 over at HartmanReport.com. Please check it out. You'll find it fascinating.
They used to stand up, take the heat, face
the folks out in the street, but now they run, now they hide to scare the other side. They cut your wages, steal your rights, but won't debate in broad daylight. Their town halls are a ghost parade, so let's step in and take their stage. Adopt a red state, take a stand where cowards ran. Show the truth, break the lies, let them hear the other side. Adopt a red state, make
There you go.
them see.
Show up. Show up, huh? 54 minutes past the hour. Bob in Pittsfield, Massachusetts. Hey, Bob, thanks for listening to WBEC. What's up?
Hey, Tom, welcome back. Hope you had a good vacation. I know you were writing the book, but or following up on your book. But anyways, I'll get straight to it for what I was calling about. You know, I keep hearing, just like when they had the Texas flood, they were, you know, you had a reporter yesterday start asking Trump that, you know, not, a lot of information isn't being handed out. And his response after her, you know, her whole question was put forth, you know, he finally wraps up with going, you know, that question was very evil. You know, you're an evil person.
Yeah.
He called her evil.
Which is nuts. Did you notice in his press conference today, no reporters asked him any tough questions? He has now successfully cowed the White House press by doing that kind of thing.
This is exactly, and this is the reason why I'm calling. You know, I really wish that these reporters would band together, grow a couple. You know, when one reporter gets shut down like that, why can't another reporter just, you know, hey, I want to follow up. You never answered that question. Please answer. You know, and two or three people. What's he going to do? Is he going to fire all of the or you know, suspend all of the reporters from coming back into the White House, or, you know, any of his you know,
well,
news,
he's already kicked out the Associated Press, and they're not back in yet, to the best of my knowledge.
Yes, I understand that, but how many will he?
I think
you know,
what he'll do is
continue?
he'll eventually end up with nobody except Fox News and News Nation or not News Nation. What do you call it? One American News, and you know, basically he'll just have the right wingers in there. I mean, he's packed them in now anyway. He's got right wing bloggers in there, for God's sake. I mean, this is not a press corps thing anymore.
And that, but don't you think that would kind of take his credibility away? It would really harp if, you know, even if the newspapers were to get a hold of it.
He has no credibility. The guy is a professional liar, and everybody knows it. I don't think he cares about that at all, though. Bob, I got to run, but thanks for the call. Great question. Thank you. And thanks for being with us today. We'll be back tomorrow, same time, same place. In the meantime, don't forget, democracy is not a spectator sport. It requires all of us. That includes you. So get out there, get active, tag. You're it. Have a great afternoon. Be good to yourself and the folks around you. Stay safe. And I will catch up with you tomorrow.
You've been listening to Thom Hartmann. For audio and video archives, visit thomhartmann.com.
In addition to bringing you the Thom Hartmann program here on Free Speech TV and Video Media Online, we also have a whole set of ways you can interact with us and tools you can use to spread the word about the importance of democracy and the threats to it in our republic. First, there's your daily homework. Sue Nethercutt puts together a daily email newsletter that has a link to every story I discuss on the air, so you can find my sources and you can share them with your friends. It's free, and you can sign up at thomhartmann.com. Second, I publish my daily take every day over at the HartmannReport.com website. That's also free if you want the daily 5 days in your inbox. No ads either. Third, we have the podcast. There's the free 1-hour version of our daily show that's advertising supported. You can find that wherever you get your podcasts normally. And then there's also the podcast of the entire 3-hour show with no advertisements, and that's available by subscription over at thomhartmann.com. Check them all out at thomhartmann.com and hartmannreport.com.